What's up, folks? Welcome to the Avocado Gamescast, the Avocado's tastiest gaming podcast that definitely isn't on its third attempt at recording tonight. This is episode number 90. That's right, we've done 90 episodes of this deliciousness, and we are not stopping. We've got a great meal for you folks today. We're going to be visiting some of our favorite franchises. Maybe they're dormant, maybe they're putting out delectable games at a regular pace, and we're going to try to come up with what their next ideal courses would be. It's going to be a blast, but before we get to that, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Chef Merve. Let's meet the very hungry boys who are joining me today. He wishes the PlayStation Move controller had just been a corn dog. It's Andy Tuttle.
Hi, how you guys doing?
He'll ride his Yoshi to bring you a donair in 30 minutes or less. It's LittleMac.
Hey, gang.
And last but not least, Pillars of Eternity inspired him to make some bomb-ass gamer meatloaf. And for once, that's not a joke. It's the Kappa.
That is a deep cut. I am surprised you remember that. But my hungry boys, they like spicy meatloaf. So yeah,
I would forget that.
Yeah,
I remember that the meatloaf had oats in it.
Yeah, steel cut oats, and I thought it would have been gross, but it kind of works to like bind it all together. You know, I'm not much of a cook, but I don't understand why you add some stuff and not other. But then I had that, and I kind of understood it. So
yeah, it gives it some nice body.
It's called Duke's Own Beef Loaf. I bet you if you looked it up, there's a couple other people who made it. It's actually really good meatloaf.
So this is just a recipe straight from like a lore book?
Yeah, so Pillars of Eternity, they had like a huge Kickstarter, gigantic Kickstarter. They started to like basically get to the point where it's like they were doing stretch goals on top of stretch goals on top of stretch goals, you know? And one of them was we'll release an actual cookbook based on food from the game, you know, basically for people to cook. And I actually made some of the stuff in it. It was really good. The Duke's Own, it's like DUC, I guess like the old style of Duke or something. But the beef loaf, it's like barbecue, onions, like kind of like a very basic meatloaf. But inside of it, it's steel cut oats and like a lot of it, like cups of steel cut oats. And man, it is like, it's like eating like a beef loaf, but good. It's very filling. I usually would probably eat like half of what it was, but because it was so filling, I think I ate like maybe like 1/10 of what I would normally eat for whatchamacallit, for like a meatloaf type thing.
So like one slice and you're good. It
yeah, exactly.
Right
like it's not like I need plates of this stuff. So
I wonder how that would taste with donair sauce.
You know what it would be really good with? I was thinking something like a hoisin.
Oh, like hoisin sauce. Yeah.
I've always thought that would be so good, like that with the meatloaf. I've been making my own sauces. I've been making some real good stuff. I don't want to tease anybody too much, but yeah, that's what I've been working with, that kind of base. So anyway, enough about my damn meatloaf.
No, let's talk more about hoisin sauce. Love that stuff. Goes on my stir fries. Yeah, we've been playing video games. We've also been kind of watching stuff about video games. Just last week, Double Fine and Two Player Productions put out this 32 episode series on the making of Psychonauts 2. I'm like 2/3 the way through now. It's a wild ride. Like they really get into it. There is some drama.
I'm gonna say they've done docs for a couple games now.
Yeah, they did one for Broken Age. Yeah,
right. And Massive Chalice not really was like the result of like a game jam thing that I think I don't know if they did a doc on, but they did something with it, right?
Right. So what they do is every few years they spend 2 weeks doing a game jam called Amnesia Fortnight. Every time they run it, they make a documentary about that game jam.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, but the docs that they do are fantastic. They're really cool to kind of see. You know, some of it's a little corporate culture, rah-rah type stuff. I get it, you know, but I guess when you have a good corporate culture, it feels good to kind of, you know, tout it, I guess. Everybody there seemed pretty happy to be working there. There's a little bit of drama here and there, but yeah, at least I haven't seen this new one, so
it's
there.
Like,
but
I actually haven't seen the Broken Age one, and now I kind of want to go back and watch it. That you've mentioned that, because this is not that. This
really?
is. I am shocked that they put this out, and moreover, that Microsoft allowed them to put this out. Like, it really does not paint some people in a great light.
Wow.
Which is, I was surprised that they were willing to be so candid about it. I mean, I suspect that they actually made some of the people whom they paint in a bad light look slightly better, but it's really hard to sugarcoat some of what's in there.
Shocking, yeah.
Yeah.
It probably takes some of the edge off that they did actually put the game out and it was fairly well received. If this was a game that just actually got caught in development hell, fell apart, was kind of the how the studio died, you might feel a little more sensitive about putting out a documentary that makes it clear that you are the reason that happened.
Yeah. I behind it all, yeah.
Yeah. Let's just say there's a reason this game took 2 years longer than it was supposed to. And you can really see that in how the process went.
With that being your observation, let me ask you this. Microsoft is kind of creating, with them and other companies and stuff, kind of an island of misfit toys of development studios. Have you noticed? Now, granted, a lot of studios are not what we thought they were behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like Microsoft in particular has kind of said, well, we're going to take some of these, like, more dysfunctional studios. I'm not just talking about the Activision, but stuff like Rare, who just could never seem to get a game out the door, or like, other studios. And Double Fine is one of them now, it sounds like. Are we eventually getting to the point where we're like, hey, maybe Microsoft can't fix all these studios like we thought they were going to, or thought they could?
I mean, I think it was never really their intention to fix them so much as to just hope they'd continue producing stuff for Game Pass.
Okay.
And I don't know that Double Fine needs fixing so much, because part of what is in the documentary is almost like trying to change their corporate culture, and their development process is what killed them.
Interesting.
And it's almost like going back to their kind of chaotic approach is what saved them. But, I mean, I haven't watched to the end, so maybe there's another twist kind of along the trajectory of this development process. But it's pretty... it comes down pretty much kind of in favor of having a little bit of that brokenness and just being able to support it now that Microsoft has given them the big bucks.
That's really interesting. I do want to watch this really bad now, actually, because I did like the other docs, and there's something to be said sometimes about the push and pull. And I think generally, me and you on the podcast, we've been a little more like lenient with like the publishers aren't always the bad guys, right?
Yeah.
Like there are times where it's like, yeah, you got to get the game out. Like, we'll give you 2 years, but you got to get the game out at some point, right?
There's some of that in here. Like their original publishing partner is like suspiciously lenient with them, and it goes let's just say it goes places.
That's really cool. Yeah, this sounds awesome.
Go look up the Wikipedia entry on Starbreeze if you want to have
Starbreeze is a nightmare. They've had some real problems with very easy studios to at least the public.
I mean, there's also the whole criminal element and the insider trading. But yeah.
Who hasn't done a little of that lately?
Yeah, it's just like
all of Sonic's dev team and
well, what's a little insider trading between friends, right?
Multimedia conglomerates, yeah.
Good old Yuji Naka, always great for a laugh. We can't get away from Project Sonic.
I know,
it happens every single time. I hope none of you have been playing Sonic, because now we're going to talk about what we've been playing lately. None of you are playing Sonic, right? Like, I hope I'm not insulting anyone.
No.
Good.
Hell, before I recognize Sonic.
All right, Andy, what have you been playing?
So I've got a couple here. I know later on, not to spoil the podcast, but you did want to talk about some of the January releases. So I can either talk about Fire Emblem Engage, or I could talk about Rayman 3. So
let's talk about Rayman 3.
Rayman.
All right.
Everyone's been Fire Embleming. No one has been Raymaning. So let's Rayman.
You know why no one's been playing Rayman? Because it's 20 years old. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For people who don't know, I write a weekly column on the Avocado called New Game Releases, And one of the main kind of like points of that is I highlight games that came out 10, 20, 30, and sometimes 40 years ago. And so next week's title is from 20 years ago is Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc. So I played that for about a couple hours today, and I'm actually really having a great time with it. Speaking of Psychonauts, I think they even mentioned that Rayman 3 was kind of one of their, not inspirations for Psychonauts, but they kind of looked at that when they were coming back to maybe do the next Psychonauts. Like, I think Tim Schafer played through a bunch of old 3D platformers like Rayman 3.
I love Rayman games. I always have, and I've always felt like they've been kind of the, like maybe not the lost platformer, because there's a lot of platformers people don't think about anymore. But man, those games really felt good at the time. One of the best things I can say about Rayman is the controls are like otherworldly good compared to other platformers. Are you noticing that?
No, the controls are great. It's well, like a lot of early 3D games, like the camera sucks. But I think the issue with the camera here is that I like to play them, I guess, inverted. So when I turn the stick to the right, I want the camera to go
right
a certain direction, and you can't toggle that in this. And so it's kind of been giving me a little like headache trying to like turn the camera, and I'm like, what? No. But no, the controls are great. His whole helicopter move with his hair that he uses to jump to platforms is great. The thing about 3, I don't know if they did this in 2 or not, but he's got all these different power-ups that he has. So like you can like have like a super punch power move, and there's like a grappling hook power move that you use, and all of that feels really nice and really well thought out. Like the stages are laid out in a way where almost kind of like a puzzle game where you have to like solve, like, okay, I've got to save this, shaman or whatever that's trapped in a cage. So, okay, I've got to use my grappling hook here and go here and here and here, and then I've got to jump down and quickly get the rocket punch hand and smash the door open so that I can save the guy. And it's almost like I could see speedrunners probably really kind of get off on this game, I bet, because it's a lot of like, you've got to do it perfectly and quickly in order to solve it. And so like one thing, like, yeah, it was the whole thing with like punching a wall, and it took me like 35 minutes to like figure out how to like get from point A to point B and like, save the guy. So it's great. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I've always loved those games, and it's kind of a lost art to make platformers that they're not really trying to do anything new. They just do the basics right, and that's what I always kind of thought about Rayman.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of charm there. I don't think there's not like a cutesy mascot that really pulls the game together or anything. It's just this is like, it's like a platformer's platformer, kind of a feel.
And not only is it not cute, it's almost aggressively anti-cute. There's this fly character, like a green fly, and I think Billy West does the voice, and he's so fucking annoying. He's just like yapping at you the whole time and like talking shit about how you're playing, like if you aren't collecting gems fast enough, because there's like a combo system where you collect gems, and as you collect the gems you get more points for it, and then you use those points to unlock bonus stages. And so if you don't collect them fast enough and you lose your combo, he like gives you crap about it. You talk about how it's kind of a lost art. I think Rayman probably gets unfairly lumped in with other like kind of like kid-friendly licensed games.
Yeah, I would agree too.
From the
I'm
2000s.
absolutely guilty of doing that. I never gave a Rayman game a chance before Rayman Legends, and only then when forced by a friend and was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I always just, if you had asked me to list off a bunch of junk platformers from the 90s, I might have thought of Rayman before I thought of like Gex or Bubsy.
Right. Yeah, no.
Not at all.
No, it's not. And like it took me 20 years to finally go back and see that Rayman 3 is great. It's not like, now do I need to check out Ty the Tasmanian Tiger or Tak and the Power of Juju? Like maybe those are good. I don't know. Are they good? Have you played those? Any Tak heads in there?
Sorry, no.
I must confess.
Didn't they just put out Ty the Tasmanian Tiger on like Switch or something?
platformers
Wait, have
are
they
one of
ported
those-
it?
I thought they ported it.
to
I
Switch?
gotta look this up.
Maybe.
I was
They
gonna say
did some-
platformers are one of those genres where like so many of like the big names take all the air out of the room whenever you talk about like the greats. It's like you're not getting past, you know, like your Marios and stuff like that
Yeah.
until you get to that second tier of like, well, it's either Raven or Taz, and nobody really knows the difference because it's not, you know, it's not in that Mario territory, right? So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah, Rayman 3 is great. If nobody's played it, I say check it out. It's fantastic. I really like it a lot.
So, a couple of clarifications. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger and Taz the Tasmanian Devil are two different characters.
Oh.
And Ty the Tasmanian Tiger HD and its sequel are both on Nintendo Switch
Oh, yeah.
for like $40 each Canadian. Don't know what that is in
Ugh.
freedom dollars.
like $4.
Probably.
I'm just messing.
No, it was great. When I first moved down to the States, the Canadian American dollar were at parity, and then when I moved back, the Canadian dollar dropped a lot. So that move, I guess, was profitable for me. So, you know, I've taken advantage of this exchange rate discrepancy.
That parody era was so frustrating because they didn't change things like comic book prices to reflect the fact that the Canadian dollar is worth the same.
Oh yeah, I remember
Oh,
books.
man,
Books
yeah.
were one of the big ones because they just kept selling it like it would say CAD, and they just made it $1 more, even though it was at parity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not from Canada, but I remember seeing that on the comics, and I would always feel bad. I'd be like, "Oh man, I got to pay $2.25 for Spider-Man. Like that sucks." Sorry,
Those
Canada.
were the days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun times. So, LittleMac, what have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing a fair number of things just because they dropped Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games on
Hell yeah.
Switch Online, so I'm dropping into lots of games. But I think the one that I'll mention today is not a Game Boy game at all. It's Ultima 7, The Black Gate.
Oh, what have you been playing that on?
Oh, the purest form. I've been playing just on my PC. I bought it on GOG Galaxy, and I've been streaming it.
Yeah.
I'm not using Exalt. I haven't even applied the publicly available patch that makes fishing work. So,
Oh, so you're going super old school.
oh yeah. So for me, it's literally impossible to fish. Fishing just is not programmed into the game. I have a fishing pole, but we never ever get a bite. And yeah, so I have been on a journey. I'd always wanted to be into the Ultima series. Like even when I was young, my buddy had Ultima 6, False Prophet on his PC, and we would fire it up and we would do the awesome character creation where you answer a bunch of virtue-related
Yeah.
questions, get a character design, play the opening battle in Lord British's throne room where he fights some gargoyles, and then we just kind of like faff about and be like, what the hell? What do you do? Where do you where do you go to cause the next cutscene, right? Like, or not even, we wouldn't have called them cutscenes at the time, but certainly the RPGs, the video game RPGs we were used to, were guiding us much more strongly than Ultima, which tends to just tell you at the start that it wants you to fix everything and then let you figure out how to do so.
And it does a lot of the stuff. I haven't played it in forever. I actually played it like as they came out. Well, except for like Ultima 9, that came out super late, right? The finale.
Yes, late
Yeah.
90s, if it's like 99, if not even 2000.
Wow. Okay, yeah, I played that one way later than it came out even then. So like I think I played that in like 2006, 2007, but it was kind of like, I might as well finish this because I kind of half remember everything. But even the story, it's consistent through the games. I don't know if you've been playing them in order or anything. Like the story's consistent, but you just tend to kind of like, am I the good guy, bad guy, avatar now, or it's kind of
the story is mostly consistent if you start, which I did, with 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I played Ultima 4: The Quest of the Avatar, and then I played that one just by myself, and I've done all the rest of these on my Twitch channel. So I did Ultima 5: Warriors of Destiny, Ultima 6: False Prophet, and now I'm on to the Black Gate. And there's a fair bit of like retconning that happens.
Yeah.
like for example, the reformed demon Sin Vral in Ultima 5 turns out to actually just be a gargoyle, because they introduced the gargoyles and they were like, gargoyles look like demons, and then turns out Sin Vral was a gargoyle. He just never thought to mention it. And also, they're notable as RPGs, at least this run of 4 games, because they're all set in Britannia, and Britannia is generally the same place. Like, things change to reflect the passage of time, but you're looking at the same map with the same cities in roughly the same spots, but they're not quite always the same spots. So, like, for example, between 5 and 6, they switched from a multi-scale map where, you know, on the world map, there's just a single square town, and when you stand on it and press enter, you go to the town screen. Now it's all just when they made it a continuous map, that messes with the geography a lot, because all of a sudden the distance between towns gets way smaller when the towns are taking up a huge chunk of the world map on their own. And
I love Ultima, but it does kind of feel like sometimes like the series got like pulled almost in weird ways. Like you could almost see him being like, "Oh, I played a cool JRPG. I'm gonna introduce something from it in here." You know, like it definitely feels like there's like it's an ongoing sum of all its parts type thing where he's learning from different influences as he's going, even though everybody else is doing the same with his game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and he's also really, really into a specific vision of the role-playing game that creates a living, breathing world.
Right, the changes are hitting and affecting, and you know, that kind of thing. And that's something that of its time felt crazy. I mean, Ultima as a series felt nuts when you would play like between it, but you know, by 1999 or whatever the time the last one came out, you know, a lot of what he had or Richard Garriott had developed had really just become kind of like, yeah, of course we're going to do that. But
there's some crazy stuff with like outer space, like you could go into space and fight monsters or something.
That happens in, I believe, Ultima 1 and possibly also Ultima 2, but they got away from that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Towards a more consistent world.
Now, Ultima Online brought a lot of that back, though. Ultima Online was like the kitchen sink, throw it all in there. So, but yeah, are you liking it?
So this is the interesting thing about it to me, is that Ultima 7 is, first of all, like, it's a huge technical leap forward in a ton of ways for PC games generally, for the genre of the RPG, but it's also a janky, hideous mess.
Yep.
And so for me, my favorite in the series so far, at least, is Ultima 5, Warriors of Destiny, which to me felt like everything they had done in the first 4 Ultimas, they kind of refined and took it as far as you could possibly go with that. And so it feels very, like, it's not perfect. Perfect is the wrong word to use, but it's polished and it's tight and it does everything it sets out to do very well.
Yeah, it's kind of like the end game of Ultima. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, and so then Ultima 6 takes a big step forward in fleshing out the world. Like, all the objects are there in the world. We're not just looking at icons that give us the idea of things. If there's a table and that table has a cheese wheel on it, you can take that cheese wheel. You can move that table. And it goes even further in Ultima 7, which, for example, introduces an inventory system where you open your backpack and a backpack pop-up window appears on the screen. And now you can seamlessly click and drag objects that are in your backpack and place them in the world. Or if you open up your paper doll equipment screen, you can take something right from the world and equip it directly. And the game will remember where every single thing is. And so this stuff is all remarkable. But at the same time, in the quest for, like, I guess, more immersion and more realism, they made their way to... First, Ultima 6 did the battles right in the same screen instead of having a separate battle screen, which got a little clumsy sometimes just because you're not fighting in a well-crafted battle arena. Ultima 7 brings in real-time combat, and not in a way that is even slightly well executed. It's just complete madness.
That was
You
the
press-
one. Yeah. Go ahead.
You press the C key to go into combat mode, and then a few seconds later, you've either killed the Lich or you're dead, and you're game over. You don't know why, and if you lose a battle, 99 times out of 100, the way to eventually beat that battle is to just keep trying.
Yeah, it just literally like RNG it. Yeah.
I just this weekend I was fighting a Lich, and it's an extremely powerful monster, and it kept beating us. And I was trying to come up with actual tactics, like what if we put powder kegs here and here so when it teleports. And then finally, I was like, you know what, we got to just get out of this dungeon, and and like regroup, maybe do some training, gain some stats. And when I went to leave, it turned out even though the Lich is contained within a magically locked room with a sign that says "Do not free the Lich," it could actually just teleport itself out. So it teleported itself out and attacked us. And I went, oh, damn it. And I hit C, and instantly it played victory music. We one-shotted the Lich. Because it's so random.
Yep.
So, and like inventory management, it's really cool what they achieve, but it's also an accurate simulation of what it would be like if you had 700 objects in a backpack. They don't stay in the same places. They cover each other up. It's maddeningly frustrating. So
like playing inventory Tetris?
Yeah. Well, you lose it. I think what he's saying too is like you might put your, sword of holding or whatever in this one spot every time, but then when you go to look back your inventory, you've got to scroll through your entire inventory to find it sometimes.
No.
Yeah. Around. It's underneath a ham now.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've gone from the first 5 games having a food meter where you just bought rations, they appeared in a single stat numerically, and that stat just went down over time, and if it got to 0, everyone was hungry, they started dying. Now we have individual food items, and each member of the team must be fed individually. They will not automatically feed themselves. They just complain about being hungry until you double-click on a side of mutton and click on them. Like the baby bird.
What morons?
Baby bird.
Yeah.
Baby bird? Wait, you like chew it up for them and spit it?
Hey, baby
You
bird.
might as well be. They will not do it themselves. They will starve to death with a backpack full of cheese. And
That's amazing.
So what I'm saying is that this game is like every single thing that makes an RPG good, like character development and combat and the magic system and all this stuff, is executed terribly in this game. When just 2 games ago in the series, it was all being executed at least very good and often at an excellent level. And yet, the world does feel so fleshed out and alive, and just talking to the NPCs and finding out what happened and seeing what crazy things you can do with the environment system, really, I'm invested, and like I'm enjoying it more every time I play it, even though as a game, it's not very good.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was getting, I think, maybe with my comment about like how at the same time that Ultima's inspiring other people, it's being inspired by other things, but always in very weird ways that felt kind of inconsistent, I guess. Like, I guess, I don't know. I'm not a big Beatles fan. Don't tell anybody. But like, like people be like, oh, the Beatles inspired everybody to do this, this, and this. But like, if you listen to this album, they've been inspired by, Ravi Shankar's music or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've always felt about Ultima. It's like he was playing other games and be like, wow, this is a really cool system. How can I get this into Ultima? And a lot of times it was very mixed results. Like you said, you already had a hunger system, but I'm sure he played some game, I don't know, where there was like more of a survival element to it and was like, well, maybe I can do this a little bit more, a little bit better, and it just doesn't need it. It never needed it. So a lot of the changes that would come out, you'd be like, what was the point of this,
There's even I read an interview with Richard Garriott where he was talking about a game that Origin Systems actually put out that used the mouse primarily instead of the keyboard. And he said, when we released that, like, I was so mad because I realized, like, this is what it should have been all along. And so Ultima 6 is, like, uses the mouse, but still has a lot of keyboard redundancy. And then Ultima 7 is just like, no, you're going to do all with the mouse. And it's frustrating because in Ultima 5, just like, everything you wanted to do was right a single key press away.
It's a
It all
really-
made sense.
It's a really good analysis of like Ultima as a series. Like the world and the story kept it together, but the gameplay and mechanics and like just like the how-to of the game kept it as far apart almost as possible. You know?
Yeah, and I know that there's a huge community that still plays this game. Probably not the way I'm doing it. They're using the Exalt Ultima 7 engine emulator. And I know that a huge part of what the community likes to do is like play in the sandbox, see what you can do, mess around with stuff. You can make bread by using water together with flour that you milled from grain and then put it in the oven. And now you've got a single bread that will last you for 3 seconds before your party members are like, I must eat now. And none of that.
I mean, you can just keep that bread. They're not going to eat it themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody wants adventurer bread, right?
None of that appeals to me at all. I just want to go on a quest. But the world, like having all that stuff around me while I'm on a quest, is cool. So it keeps the game alive, even though most of the things that were fun about it aren't there anymore. For me, it's interesting.
So, do you think that in like trying to simulate something a little more realistic, the game kind of lost something?
Yes, it gained and lost things.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Yeah.
Like
And
for every 2 steps forward it would take as a series, it'd take one weird, inexplicable step back, and you would like. I've replayed Ultima probably 3 times in my life, like run it as a series, and every time it's like you just get to something, you're like, oh my god, why did they do this? I forgot about this mechanic or this part or this, and you're like, ah, got it. And it ruins any kind of playthrough, like what you're doing, because it doesn't feel consistent. It's like you're playing a whole different game all of a sudden.
Yeah, that is kind of a bummer. You'd hope
Yeah.
for some consistency
Well,
from top to bottom.
It's a weird outcome where, like, if you ask me for my review, it's like, well, 6 out of 10, strongly recommended.
That's fantastic. Kappa, what have you been playing?
Oh, God. All these old games. I want to say something new and cool and hip, but I restarted a Dragon Age playthrough because let's say I think 4 might come out at this point.
I think it's coming next year, yeah.
So
Anything can happen.
Yeah, what percentage do we have it as? First thing I want to rant about a little bit is let's talk teeth. I cannot stand teeth in Dragon Age, and I hope we have a really good picture of how bad the teeth are in Dragon Age.
I remember Zephyron. I know those teeth, man.
Are they worse than the new Mass Effect?
They look like they're made of wood, I think is being generous.
Yeah.
I'm Googling Dragon Age teeth.
Yeah, Dragon Age teeth.
There've got to be some teeth mods for the game.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah, there are. They are distractingly bad.
Oh my.
And so like it kind of takes you out of it when like the very first scene, and they have some, they have character sliders and you can mess with this and you can mess with that. But for some reason they just love this really weird jutted out, like, I don't know, like internet Chad meme chin. Like every single chin is like super jutted out, and then when the character talks, sometimes they'll show the character in profile and it's just wooden teeth and this like Disney villain chin, and it's hard not to laugh, especially when you're trying to like replay the game. Dragon Age Origins, we've said a million things about it. It's a fantastic game, but what I think more is this is my effort to like metagame this series, and what is my decision going to be, like my final, I know where this goes, who is this character, who is that character type stuff, right? So I think my Grey Warden is going to be a human from the Kuzlins. Kind of run through that story and everything. I think it makes the most sense in later terms of the game. I don't know. I just always thought about that, and I'm going to make a couple of decisions, and then going to have. So I think I said this on the avocado, but at first I was going to play a character based on my wife, and then I was like, wait, I need to have the demon baby. I was like, with a female character, it has to be with Alistair, right? Or there's that one little like blood magic ritual, but I didn't want to do that, so I was like, I don't know if I can like have my virtual wife sleep with Alistair because he's so boring. It's just like,
She was
it like took
inducedly
me out
awesome.
of it. I was like, I can't do that. I can't. So we kind of swerved, recreated, went from there. So I'm doing my main character as a gentleman of the House Kuzlin for the first one. I think I'm probably going to do a dwarf for 2. I don't know why. Just that freewheeling surface dwarf of Kirkwall feels like a good fit. And then for 3, I really want to do an elf mage inquisitor. I feel like that's the most powerful story, and then sets me up to really take it to the secret villain of, I guess I can spoil it, right? It's been a while. Solus in DA4. Yeah. I mean, he's on all the art at this point, so I don't think anybody's surprised. But
you could play as a dwarf in Dragon Age 2?
I think so, right?
I thought you could only play as a human.
Maybe I'm right. Oh yeah, you're right. I can only play as a human. So yeah. I think I'm. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a mage in one that goes along with the whatchamacallit, the blood ritual with what's his name, Anders. So I'm going to be like the good mage, or that goes bad type feel with it. And then I want my elf inquisitor to be like the mage who brings it all together but destroys the chantry in the process, you know. But
solid plan.
In my idea, because I didn't know that DA4 was going to be a continuation of Inquisition, and that's what they're saying now, right? From everything I've read, it's not a whole new game 10 years after, and you're not playing any of the main characters. It looks like the Inquisition is over, but you're still playing kind of in that same frame or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just kind of I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. 2 is the hardest one, I guess, especially since you really only got the choice of which class to play. I thought you could be a dwarf. I don't know why. Maybe it was a mod that I played or something. But what I really want from 2 though this time is I want to get something not so hung up on, you know, the annoying redos of dungeons and stuff like that, and try to play it as a smaller story that's its own thing, which I think I really had problems doing the first couple times I played through like replays, because like I don't hate DA2 for a lot of the reasons other people hate it for. It just, I like that it's a small personal story and everything. It's just at some point you're boiling down to the ultimate choice of mage good or mage bad. Well, the mages are very definitively doing bad shit, right? So it's not much of a choice to me, right? And the whole game hinges on that. I don't know anybody who would sit there and be like, you know, what Anders does is okay. It just never feels like it.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is even if you side with like the more peaceful mage guy, what's his name? Duke Orsino.
Yeah.
That guy. Yeah, even if you side with him, no matter what, he ends up losing his mind and going crazy, turn into some sort of demon. Like, and even if you side with what's the lady's name?
Oh, the Magister or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you side with her, she also ends up going crazy. Like, you don't.
That's what I mean. Like, it's not really a choice.
Yeah.
There's no choice. Like, they're going to end up going crazy.
They sit there the whole game and they're sitting there telling you, you know, hey, look, this isn't something all mages do. We don't all go, you know, blood mage and turn into demon. We don't all do that. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. You do. Every single one of you does that.
Yeah.
Exactly the thing the Templars are saying, like, this is why we don't let you out of the tower. You guys do it.
But then the Templars also do it. It just becomes pointless.
Yeah. So that's why 2 is the hardest one for me to get through. It's not just the recycle textures and this and that. It's just I feel really weird about the way that game handles the mage storyline, because there's a lot of people make a lot of real world connections to Dragon Age as a series. You know, this is this or the elves are slaves, and that's all true. But I think the story between the mages and Templars is like they're trying to suppress their power, and their true nature, and that's awful. People shouldn't do that. You should be allowed to live how you are and all this other stuff. But at the same time, if you turn into a nuclear bomb because somebody made fun of you, like that does change things a little, right?
I will say, to Dragon Age's credit, I don't think they're aiming for allegory. At least I hope they're not
a
aiming
lot
for
of that
allegory.
is stuff that people read into it, right? But you know, when you would see think pieces pretty routinely being like, you know, oh wow, this is definitely a story about the struggle for civil rights or something, you're like, well, I mean,
I would hope you wouldn't read it that way, right?
Yeah,
like that seems like it seems like you're gonna read it in a way that's there's no way you're gonna read it and feel good about it.
Yeah. There's no concise answer where this feels like, oh, okay, well, we figured this one out. Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
2's the toughest one for me. I really think that replaying the series just to try to get to where I want now. I think the Dragon Age Keep is still around. So if you really don't want to do that, I think that's an option.
Yeah,
that
still
website
there.
where you can go through and like basically, hey, here's all the choices I would have made. But I do want to be reminded of what some of those choices are before I make my kind of locked in go to DA4 with these choices set in stone type feel.
Oh yeah, for sure. Dragon Age 2, I'd forgotten a lot of the choices because
too.
Dragon Age 2 is effectively like 5 plots layered on top of each other.
Even when you go on the Keep, like Inquisition and Origin has like 500 pages of tapestry, and like 2 is like, who'd you romance? That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
Everyone.
Yeah, the whole city basically. And Isabella didn't mind. Yeah.
Oh, she was there.
Yeah, she was part of it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of telling on the game itself a little bit. When even the Keep is just kind of like, yeah, here's the 4 or 5 things that matter, and Origins has like, what did you do with this dog in stage 3? You know what I mean? Like,
but you see, the thing is, I remember that dog from stage 3,
yeah.
but I don't remember like the one important person I talked to in Dragon Age 2.
Which is weird how the hero of Kirkwall kind of gets overbilled in Inquisition over the Warden Commander, don't you think? Like, so that's a big part of the reason why I want to replay it, because I want to have a feel for my hero of Kirkwall, which I didn't have when I played DA Inquisition the first time. I expected those characters to pop up, but I'm like, I don't remember you. I don't know who you are. You're like a stranger to me, you know. So I do want to make some of those changes. And
the mistake I made when I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition is I made my Inquisition character look pretty much exactly like my Dragon Age 2 character. So when my
so you gotta load in.
Yeah, I load in, and then that scene happens towards the end of the game when my Dragon Age 2 hero shows up, and it's like they're 2 identical twins talking to each other.
It's one of those things where it takes you out of it because somebody should be commenting on this.
Yeah, like, wait, you guys look really similar.
Whoa.
Wow, real spitting image of the hero of Kirkwall here.
You have more family than you thought, hero of Kirkwall.
All right. Anything else you want to mention about Dragon Age?
So I'm curious.
Not
I have
now.
a question about Dragon Age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure, Andy. Go ahead.
So you're talking about how, I guess it's like Mass Effect, so choices you make in the previous games affect what happened in later games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think I have it on Xbox One. So does it transfer in data from the 360 games?
I think that the Keep is tied to your EA account. I think you set up the EA account regardless of platform. And then, so Dragon Age Keep is a website.
Okay.
And what it does is it tracks the changes. Now, I'm not 100% that it does this, but I think you have to link an EA account for everything. A lot of the old systems for Dragon Age, like specifically, were deprecated. So, like, you used to go like on the BioWare forums and like log in, and that's where you got certain things. But like all those are gone now, like long gone. So I think 90% of what you do is just kept on the Keep as kind of like a spreadsheet document of a version of it. And then it says you can create a character, you can import a character, you can kind of say like, hey, you know, roll me a random character where I made the following decisions. I don't care about the other following decisions. So if you're really just looking, like, the meat of the story is in 1 and 3, like we're talking about. 2 is, it's a good story, but it's if you're not looking to spend 90 hours kind of in a very small
I played 2 for a while back when it was a notable title.
Yeah.
And I just remember being in that town. And
you don't leave that town.
Oh God, you're in the town so long, and you're going from like dungeon to dungeon, and every time you go through a fucking street, there's like 12 bandits that come out.
Yeah, they all stop you and like, you get locked into a cop. Yeah, two had lots of problems. They were trying to do some stuff with it that never really worked. But what I think you could probably safely do is like maybe replay Origins at least far enough where you're like, okay, I get a feel for this. Then I would go back and I would just make my decisions in Dragon Age Keep for 2. I mean, like if you could YouTube or look some stuff up about, who's the character I would love interest or stuff like that. I would just kind of do that. And then what I would say for Inquisition, I think is a very imminently replayable type game, honestly. I think it flows the best, and it doesn't have something like the fade like Origins does, where it's just like full stop, this game sucks for the next 8 hours or whatever. It's also got the best modding community. Dragon Age without mods to me is like Skyrim without mods at this point. I've always got to load. I got to fix them damn teeth. But other stuff, there's a lot of mods that can fix a lot of story stuff in there too. There's especially 2 has a lot of stuff that locks you into pathways before you even realize you're making a choice. The most similar thing I can explain it to is everybody's played Mass Effect, so that part in Mass Effect 2, I think, or maybe it's 3, I don't know, where basically like, hey, your crew's been abducted, and you don't know that there's a hidden timer in the game that's clicking down, and if you don't do it fast enough, you basically get the bad ending. DA2 has a little bit of that type of feel going on to it, where there's certain things you don't know are deciding endings, and you're maybe kind of locked in before the average RPG enjoyer would realize, oh shit, I've made a choice that's going to affect me in the end of the game.
Got it.
So I would, a lot of YouTube's, a lot of stuff like that with it, but it's an enjoyable series. But going into 4, I just really like, especially looking at my own keep before I loaded and stuff, I was like, I made a lot of dumb shit decisions at the time, So like, it's a chance to kind of fix your kind of what you want your own personal canon to be, which I love. That's the kind of shit to me that BioWare excels at. The fact that I can sit there and go, yeah, these are the choices, all the choices I would have made if I'd known. And I know some people are like, I'll have to live with this, but no, I want it to be like my story, not at the time I didn't realize this was as big of a deal type thing.
Yeah. I should point out, unless they've changed it, I don't believe you can import your saves from Dragon Age Origins and 2 into the Keep.
I don't think so either, but I think in Inquisition it gives
Inquisition
you a chance
automatically syncs.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
But
Inquisition gives
Origins and 2 do not.
To basically fix it though. Like I think there's I can't remember what it is. It's like what did the the hero of Freewall do, and then you can make those choices in game. I don't think you can. I think you just get a generic looking one though. A generic looking hawk is the thing.
I believe, I forget how they do it. I forget whether you import your hawk. I think you can import your hawk, but you can't import the choice. I'll have to look this up. I used to know this. Yeah. I knew this back when the game came out. 9 years ago now.
That's why I'm replaying it. All this kind of stuff was like, oh yeah, of course. But now I'm like, I don't remember this. I don't remember that. But 2 is a big old black hole for memory for me. And then, it was kind of something like as I played it, I just remember feeling disappointment, and like not like soul crushing. This is the worst game ever, but like, man, this is, the sequel to basically this game I thought was gonna redo everything. And just kind of But I thought. Excited.
Yeah, I'll see where it goes.
Well, the leaks that came out, I think, are a little controversial. I can tell.
There should be.
Yeah.
They should. This should not be a God of War inspired action RPG. Nah. This should be a tactical, real-time with pause kind of game. Not as crunchy as something like Pillars. That's way too crunchy.
Yeah.
It should be a little more tactile, a little more action-oriented, but you still need that tactical combat to make it what Dragon Age really is. Inquisition got a little bit too away from that for my liking. I would like them. It doesn't have to be as crazy as Origins. I don't need like the full suite of programming tools that thing has.
Tactics, but if injured at 25%, drink lyrium potion type stuff.
Yeah, but like honestly, if Tales of Arise can manage having that kind of programming in there, and that game is an action RPG, then I think you can put some of that stuff in a Dragon Age game.
It's very very odd. I mean, it's weird to see that type of combat in there. What I'm hoping is that that's like maybe like an option or a version or like, you know what I mean? Hey, I click this box and I play God of War instead of, but it still has that base style tactics in there because that would immediately be disappointing. But
Yeah, if you can't command your party around, like, what are
yeah,
you even doing, right?
yeah,
All right, so as for what I've been playing a lot of games. I've recently finished a few indie games that I'll briefly mention in a little bit. But the big ticket kind of game that I've been playing recently is Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope.
yeah.
Ooh.
This has got a lot of latecomers to it, huh?
Yeah, I just didn't have time to play it last year.
Yeah.
I bought it. Like, I bought it the day it came out. And I was like, I'll finish Xenoblade in a couple of weeks. And I finished that in, like, the last week of December. So I just never got around to Sparks of Hope. So it's, like, commercially flopped, which is kind of tragic because it's really good. I don't think I like it as much as I did Kingdom Battle, but Kingdom Battle I kind of liked almost for its novelty more than anything else. This is a lot of what you liked about Kingdom Battle if you were a Kingdom Battle fan. But the big switch is that instead of grid-based combat, it's XCOM style. It's radial-based. So no grid anymore. Now it's all about radius of movement.
I should jump in for the folks listening at home. The modern XCOM games are grid-based, but the original XCOM. When I saw this in your notes, Merve, I was thrown off for a moment. But yeah, the original XCOM. Like that.
Wait, I've played Enemy Unknown. It's not grid-based. Or is it grid-based under the hood, but it looks not grid-based when you're playing it?
Enemy Unknown. You know what? I've only played XCOM 2 of the modern ones, now that I think about it, which was definitely grid-based.
Okay. I haven't played 2. I've only played Enemy Unknown, which is not grid-based to my knowledge. But I'll have to double-check because I didn't really like Enemy Unknown, so I can't remember it that well. But yeah, so it's a little bit like tactics games that are radial based or distance based, but you have a little more flexibility because instead of like having a turn where you move and then a turn where you attack, instead of movement being an action, you can move flexibly wherever you want in your movement radius until you fire your weapon, which is actually really neat. It means that what you can do is you can move somewhere, use a special ability that operates within a radius, then move somewhere else within your movement radius, and then attack. So it gives you a lot more options. In addition, another thing they've added compared to Kingdom Battle, which was 100% turn-based, there are a few real-time elements. It's almost like Valkyria Chronicles. So there are things like bombs will go off and you have a small amount of time to pick them up and throw them. Or team jump movement now, instead of it being predetermined, you actually like move around your character in the sky as they float towards the ground.
That sounds awesome, actually.
Yeah, so they've added a whole bunch of like more tactile elements while still keeping the turn-based nature of the combat. One thing that I do really appreciate about it, though, is that this is not a game that wants you to be standing around in cover all the time. Like, cover does matter, but the way you kind of play this is it wants you to be really aggressive and like dash into enemies or kind of get in the midst of a firefight and then kind of retreat afterwards.
That's been one of the bigger changes with, I think, these types of games lately. Like, I think we talked about Gears of War Tactics, and they do almost that exact thing, right? It's like...
That is the exact like reference point I was thinking of because you'd mentioned it.
They don't like you sitting there anywhere. They're like, go out there and get it. So.
Yeah, and it's not like cover doesn't matter. You want to be in cover more than you don't want to be in cover, but there is like a genuine trade-off to sometimes leaving, like staying in cover versus leaving that safety.
that was what slows down Xbox or not Xbox, XCOM games so much. Is like there's times where like, okay, if I can't move to cover, I'm not gonna move because I don't know what's there. And if my character doesn't end the turn in cover, they are 75%
they're dead.
dance. Yeah. It's
Oh man.
I would just sit there.
In original XCOM, I've had like entire like 5 rounds in a row where I took maybe 3 steps.
Yeah.
2 of my squad members to get them all positioned so they're all aiming their guns at a door, and then just like end
Yeah, you
of
got like 5 snipers on Overwatch.
Yeah. Will the alien come out? Will it come out?
Yeah, this game is great because there's no fog of war. You see the entire board laid out for you when you start. I mean, I'm pretty early on. Maybe there's some fog of war mechanics later, but for now, it's just you see the entire board. You could pretty much plan out your entire strategy right from the get-go. And you do have to react to what the characters are doing or what your opponent is doing, but you can kind of almost play it like a puzzle box.
Right.
I will say it is a little bit too easy. I was really tempted to just bump up the difficulty to hard, which I almost never do. I think I've played maybe 1 game on hard my entire life. But the weird thing about it, and I think this is what put people off about it, is there's voice acting in this game. And I don't think there should be. Like,
the rabbits talk? Like, I've never heard a rabbit talk before.
Yeah, kind of annoying. Like a minion.
Yeah, the rabbits talk a little bit.
Like, do they speak like English, or is it like?
Yeah, they speak
like
English, but like short phrases.
Yeah.
And so they won't speak their entire dialogue. They'll speak a short phrase, like almost as like in a JRPG or visual novel, where you're not going through the really plot-heavy stuff.
Okay.
Like when you do like side plots, they do like these short phrases.
Yeah.
Or stock phrases. That's how the rabbits are. The Mario characters don't talk at all. Like they do their efforts and their catchphrases, but that's it. But then your AI assistant characters, which are named Beepo and Genie, they have full voice acting, which is really weird and does not fit.
That is
you get one or the other, I think, right?
Yeah, like bring everyone down to the Mario level and just have them go, haha, or yay, hooray, or let's go, or great job at the most, right? You don't want them saying anything more than that. I don't think this game needs that. I don't think it needed to have that extra expense on voice acting.
No, I can't imagine. Are they like dumping exposition? Are we expected to care about these sparks of hope?
Yeah, there are lore dumps with lots of spoken dialogue. And I am fine with the lore. I'm fine reading that lore. But giving voice to that lore almost like ruins the illusion of the perfect level of silliness the game has. Right? When you give a voice to it, it like that balance that Kingdom Battle struck so well kind of gets thrown out of whack.
I think it's important to be goofy in that tone, or it feels really weird with that type of game. You got to be silly. It's a silly premise. It's a silly idea. The rabbits are silly, right? Like anytime you're kind of trying to take any of that seriously in the story, I think it's going to lose out.
I think it's almost it is kind of that problem. I think it's almost like, I know there's been a whole backlash against Joss Whedon, understandably, because he's not a good person. But like, there's almost kind of like that element of the dialogue not taking itself super seriously, which works for a game where it's not voiced. But the second you have that, the second you're kind of expressing that like half serious dialogue out loud, where it's not taking the premise seriously, it starts to feel a little grating. Like, it was cool when you were not giving a voice to it, so I could ascribe any level of seriousness that I wanted to this. But if you're doing the whole too cool for school thing,
right,
with actual voice dialogue, it never comes across well.
That's a good way to put it. It's very childish. Like it makes the whole thing a little, it's less fun and more of a joke. It's like a kid making fun of you for liking playing Magic the Gathering or something. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm enjoying it. Leave me alone. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
why games
it's
want to
almost
make you
like
feel like you shouldn't be enjoying this. This is dumb. Like, no, I like it. Why are you telling me that game?
exactly. It was like before I felt like I was in on the joke, and now the game is kind of like pointing at me and saying, haha, you're not in on the joke. But I'm like, I wasn't on the joke.
Yeah.
I got the joke. So, I don't know. Other than that, though, I'm really enjoying this, but I'm fairly early on. I haven't even completed the first stage. So, things could change. I imagine it'll get a lot more complex. But I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah.
Thanks for at least playing a newish game so we don't. You know?
I'm excited to check it out. I got
Retro
it.
game review.
Geriatric cast.
I got this game for Christmas this year, but I haven't even. It's still in the shrink wrap.
You know,
I haven't found the time yet.
it's a good transition to talk to you, but how crazy has this like past couple months been just in terms of releases after what was kind of a ho-hum, holiday, but it feels like all of a sudden I've got a backlog of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, I
Yeah,
know,
I had to
Andy, you
cancel
mentioned
some
you've been
pre-orders.
playing Fire Emblem Engage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that came out early in January. And then there was Forspoken, which didn't really set the world
Yeah,
on
didn't
fire.
exactly knock anybody out, huh? I was disappointed by the writing on it. I know we talked a little bit about it last time, and I don't know. I feel like this could have been the opening to a new kind of franchise, kind of like an Uncharted feeling, on this new world with this. But there's that whole thing kind of left me cold, honestly. And I know it's one of those games where you got a lot of asshole MRA types, who are saying, yeah, bad because girl. But that's not really it, honestly, with that game. It just kind of feels like they were going for something that, like, maybe it was like one of those like designed by committees things where nothing just really worked. And so they just,
I get the sense, yeah. For
Didn't
sure.
an article just come out about Forspoken where Gary Whitta, the writer, said that whatever he wrote for that game is like doesn't match anything.
I wouldn't be
that
surprised.
game.
We talked about that very specifically in the last Gamescast, where I was like, this is surprising because Gary Whitta usually nails this type of feel, right? Like, hey, this fish out of water protagonist comes in and has to make this world their own, and what I mean. Like, I felt, and Amy Hennig was the other author or writer on it. Credited
Yeah, and it's the
first.
same thing. I guess
Yeah,
whatever
so
she
they're
wrote,
credited with the
same
original story, but it was Todd Stashwick and someone else who wrote the script.
Yeah, the script is where I think it falls apart. I mean, whatever. It's isekai. It's like isekai. I don't know. Help me out.
Isekai.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I don't actually know Japanese.
But then I think it's just that I feel like it cribbed from a lot of weird sources, and it didn't come together as a whole. And that's why I was really surprised to see those two names attached to that story. But yeah, I think it didn't light the world on fire for a couple different reasons, but I don't know.
That dialogue didn't help at all. My God.
It did not. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I the best way I could describe it is the same stuff I don't like about where Marvel gets a lot of its humor is the same thing they had in that game where she was like,
Mhm.
I did it. I did this with my flippin' mind, my freaking mind. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, come on.
That happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
Like, you look over your shoulder, and she's fighting with this thing on her arm that sounds so much like Jarvis. It's hard for me to turn that off. You know what I mean? It's just like I can't remember what it's called. It's called like Vambrace.
Cuff.
Cuff. Yeah, he wants to be called Vambrace.
Vambrace would sound so much cooler.
Yeah. She's like, no, I'm gonna call you Cuff. And then, but like, it sounds so much like Jarvis. So when they're having these little like smarmy kind of arguments, it's just, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to shake. Like, wow, this feels like a B pass at a Marvel script.
Mhm.
For sure. But two other big games came out towards the end of January that I think kind of dominated the discourse for a couple of weeks. One of those was the Dead Space remake, which actually got a lot of plaudits when it came out. I didn't think it would be any good.
Yeah,
but
and
surprisingly, they pulled it off.
I thought this would be the exact opposite of what happened. I thought Callisto Protocol was going to blow everyone away, and Dead Space was going to feel like an also ran in its own kind of genre, and it was exactly the opposite.
Motive did a great job with it.
Yeah, but doesn't it feel like Callisto Protocol kind of came and went with a whimper for all the hype it was getting a couple even weeks ago? It felt like.
Yeah, it did not. It was not well received critically. I shouldn't say not well received. It got mix of good and bad reviews, but it did not do well commercially.
Yeah.
It was a sales disappointment, I believe, for Krafton.
Well, it has a stupid name. I'm sorry. It does. Like,
Yeah.
what?
The only protocol I want is alpha. Don't get me with any no other protocols. We got room for one protocol in video games.
I want my Stephen Heck back. That guy was great.
But yeah, so I called that one way wrong. I'm glad we didn't put that anywhere in writing, because I would have picked that exactly opposite for how it ended up. But yeah, I think what people like about Dead Space, and seeing a lot of streamers play it who I don't think maybe experienced it the first time around in its original state, is the type of horror that Dead Space gives you is super claustrophobic. You're trapped in this room with this thing that wants to kill you. You're running low on ammo. It's the kind of stuff that early Resident Evil really hit on. But
Yeah.
I don't think does as much anymore. But that you're locked in the room with 5 things, the door's closed, you can't, Goomba stomp them. You're stuck in the room with them until you figure out how to get out. So, I like that about Dead Space. I think Dead Space is a series. I'm glad it's around again.
I did listen to this interview that I believe Waypoint did with the makers of both the original Dead Space and the remake. And one of the things that the original devs took as a point of inspiration was Resident Evil. They were very much inspired by it. And they're like, Resident Evil 4 is pretty great. We should make a Resident Evil, but in space. That was basically their whole deal.
I mean, I have to imagine they were also inspired by like Aliens, the Alien franchise.
Oh yeah,
It
absolutely.
was the best Aliens game before Aliens made it.
The only
game.
thing I think that Dead Space.
I thought you were going to say Colonial Marines.
Yeah. Oh, God, I just played Colonial Marines.
Don't
for
you
the
bring him up?
Finals.
I know
And
you're close.
Fuck, that game sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah, we got a lot of deep lore with that game.
Oh, yeah, his company, to jump ahead, and we're going to jump back, but this is a segue that I'm not going to let go. His company, Gearbox, just published an indie game on Valentine's Day called Blanc.
Yeah, it looks great. Is it good?
That's a Gearbox game. I mean, they didn't develop it, but they published it.
Yeah.
It's like this black and white co-op game set in the snow where it's, I believe, a fox and a deer, I want to say,
Yeah.
who are
Too indie for me
cooperating to
Ooh,
complete challenges.
I'm looking at the pictures of this now. It looks lovely.
Oh, it looks gorgeous. I mean, I've heard it's boring, but gorgeous, which is, kind of my alley.
So just like Borderlands 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, classic Gearbox. Just
Somebody talking about
just a
their looking
minimalist
on
aesthetic.
Great Valentine's Day game right there. The game that I actually wanted to jump back to, sorry for jumping ahead, was Hi-Fi Rush,
Yeah.
which Microsoft just shadow dropped.
Out of nowhere, huh?
Yeah.
And it felt like it took over everything for a little bit, right?
For sure. Like, I went out and played it when it came out. It was pretty dope. I just finished it a couple of nights ago.
Oh, wow, really? You finished it?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but I could be like the I don't know how to describe it. That mechanic is not for me. Like the little like killing on the beat type thing. I don't know what you call it, but it showed up before in games.
Like
Remember Me was the previous game that did something like this.
Yeah. It's just tough for me. I don't know why. Like I don't play games all the time with sound on, and I think that's a big part of why. I'll read the subtitles and stuff. I just got, as a dad of 2, they're like whole thing.
You
but
can't
I can't
zone in on
always
that.
zone right in on the game. But it looks so much fun if you can just kind of black everything else around you out and just really kind of, this is what I'm doing all day today. But man, the style of that game is incredible. I mean, that's what makes me want to play it almost more than anything else.
It's fantastic. It's got like a mixture of shonen anime and Saturday morning cartoon with almost like this it's the most PS2-esque game that the PS2 never put out.
That's a good way to put it.
Like it's it's got that kind of like old school, like, yeah, video games are great vibe, which I think it nails to a T.
It's like one of those movies where it's like, aren't movies great? There's always that like genre, like use like a Spielberg movie or something, like
The Fable, man.
Hugo or something, But yeah.
So what's that about the Fablemans?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the Fablemans is about. Did you like the Fablemans? I love the Fablemans.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the Fablemans. I should watch the Fablemans.
Feels like that love letter type genre. Hey, wasn't this such a fun time for video games? And it was. It was a fun time. You could just make a game about a kid who, wanted to go to space, and who cares? That's the whole video game now, right? So,
pretty much.
I have a question about Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, sorry, Andy. What was that question?
I was just saying. So the trailer for Hi-Fi Rush gave me a lot of those same kind of Forspoken vibes, where like the dialogue is real, cringy and kind of Joss Whedon-y. Is that in the game? How do they rectify it? Whereas kind of Forspoken maybe failed with it.
I think what it does is it couches the cringe in a bit of, oh gosh, weren't we silly in the 90s? Maybe like a little, like a layer of nostalgia almost makes that go down a little bit easier. I don't know how else to explain it.
Like a little more ironic.
Yeah,
like they're doing
it's
it
more.
ironically.
Yeah,
it's not even necessarily irony. Okay, let me present what the argument people are making about it is, and then let me kind of state my own feelings on it, having completed the game. The argument people are making is that Forspoken is a game that should be taking itself seriously, but is constantly winking at the audience. It's constantly undermining itself. Mm-hmm. Whereas tonally, Hi-Fi Rush is more of a joyous, humorous, lighthearted experience. So that winking at the audience is more like bringing them in on the joke rather than undermining the themes they're trying to get across. And I can sort of see that, but I also don't think this game is particularly well written. Like, if I had to ding it for anything, it would be that its dialogue is kind of cringy and it is winking at the audience a little too much. And I just wish it had, instead of having that quippiness and that bickering, I just wish it had gone for kind of more standard humor. And I think that would have helped it go down a little easier. It never reaches a point where it's grating. Like, there's another game that I'm playing that came out recently that we're going to get to in a little bit, where the dialogue is really, really grating, and I just want everyone in the game to shut up. But here, it never gets to the point where it's annoying, but I do think it could have been handled better.
Yeah, and you finished it. I did it, so that might be the difference. For me, I got pretty decently far into it, but I could just kind of tell, like, hey, this is, But the faults I always have is more with the gameplay than the writing.
Perhaps the way to reconcile, Merve, both the conventional wisdom take that you just described and your own take, is that if you have a game where the world is deliberately kind of silly and off the wall, even if you find the quippy dialogue to be a flaw, it's not a flaw that would spoil the experience of playing in that world in the same way that the exact same flaw in a story that's asking you to take it seriously as a drama, as a hero-based drama.
Yeah, that's the way I'd put it. Exactly. Some people have seen this kind of self-referential winking as a strength of Hi-Fi Rush, and I disagree. I would say it's not a strength, but you're absolutely right. As a flaw, it's not a fatal flaw by any means. Like, it's more like this is kind of irritating, but I'm having so much fun with the rest of this game that I don't really care. Rather than something where I'm like, this is so bad, please shut up.
I can pinpoint the exact moment in my own life where I realized that I'm over irony, and it was Double Dragon Neo. Anyone remember that particular?
No.
Oh yeah.
Heard of it, but don't remember it.
It was the late 2000s, I think.
Yeah, it just had its 10-year anniversary like last year.
Okay, so a little bit later than that, but it was like, so it's bringing Double Dragon to the modern era. And it was overpacked with like 80s references, like Billy and Jimmy have stupid mullets now, and at the end of every level, they both play air guitar.
Oh
and,
yeah.
And so like it's all like making fun of something that the original Double Dragon series wasn't. Like, like isn't it ridiculous that we used to play these games? Like, but it's like Billy and Jimmy were not playing.
Yeah, air guitar, all that other stuff. Yeah.
They were not in a game that like anyway. And I just remember at that moment being like, oh man, I'm sick of stuff just being like, isn't this stupid? And then winking at me.
What was that Charles Barkley game that came out not too long ago? Remember that?
Shut Up and Jam?
Yeah, that was.
Wait, no, that was the first one. There's a second one. They made a sequel.
It was like some kind of sequel, and then they just did all kinds of like goofy shit with it. I don't remember exactly. I remember just seeing the whatchamacallit, like the previews for it. And I was like, the exact kind of feel you're describing, where I was like, ugh, I don't need this, you know.
Sorry, LittleMac, you were saying something? Never mind, LittleMac is gone. That's cool. No, sorry, what were you saying? It's like, the Maritimes just fell into the ocean. No, sorry, you were saying something?
No, I don't think I was. I think
I don't think it was.
Okay, no, that's cool. Stay in the ocean. We don't need you anymore.
My last thing is getting sick of things being like, you know, isn't this stupid and winking at me? There's just a point where it became like, it started seeming to me like, well, you're the one who came up with it. Why didn't you come up with something that wasn't stupid? If you had come up with a good idea, we could all just be enjoying it right now.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Insecurity, you know.
Yeah.
We're always like, oh God, I hate what I wrote. Everybody else is gonna hate it too, so let me just make a joke about how everybody's gonna hate it, and then you just move on.
Isn't this stupid unless you like it? I guess then it's
right. Yeah.
They're like Tsunderes, right?
You just gotta like put your fingers together and do that little symbol.
Yeah.
Do you like me? But yeah,
it's not like I wanted you to like my writing. Right?
You like what I wrote? You're an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, like how like Kung Fu Hustle and some of those other movies kind of walk that thin line, and like what was that one where it was like Hacker Man, where they go back in time and kill Hitler? It was Kung Fu something.
Kung Fu Hustle?
No, not Kung Fu Hustle. I can't remember.
There's
like a dinosaur cop.
I have seen this.
It was very
movie.
like internet meme-y for a while. God, I can't remember what it was. It's gonna come to me like as soon as the podcast ends. But
is this live action or animation?
Yeah, it's live action.
It's live action.
Yeah, he like goes back in time to kill Hitler, but Hitler has like a mecha suit, and it was all over the place when it came out. But
Kung Fury.
Kung Fury, there you go.
Kung Fury, yeah.
So kind of like the same idea, but like, you know, at some point you're like, all right, like, I know this is goofy and silly, but you got to keep it in that goofy and silly and not make fun of me for thinking this is goofy and silly because you're the one who made it goofy and silly. And if I'm liking it, I'm like,
Hitler was played by Jorma Taccone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. I had no idea.
Cool.
It's a weird movie if you want to see a weird movie, but yeah, I mean, I'm not citing that as an example. I'm saying that's one where it's like, yeah, it's silly and it knows it's silly and it stays silly start to finish, and that works a lot better for me than some of these other movies that are like, yeah, it's silly. Don't you think it's silly? Oh, you think it's silly? All right, we think it's silly too. Haha, this is dumb. And then no, I was liking that it was silly. Go back. So yeah, I don't know.
Oh man, one moment in the Luke Cage Netflix series where, for some reason, he has to put on clothes from a thrift shop, and he winds up in Power Man costume, and he looks awesome. And then he steps in front, and he sees his reflection, and he goes like, "Well, this is stupid."
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate when they do that kind of stuff.
That like up until you said that, this was the moment where I was like, finally, something like, coming together.
Some color.
Yeah. So yeah, I know. I agree. I don't think you can. I don't think it's fun to be made fun of for enjoying something that you're enjoying. That's a really weak writing thing to do. So, but yeah, the other stuff that I was thinking that was coming out that really felt like it came out of nowhere. We talked about a couple shadow drops. But man, I don't want to get too much into it. I understand everybody's thoughts about it, but I was not expecting Hogwarts to like take over like it is. I don't know why I didn't think it would. I don't know why I ever would doubt that series, but I cannot believe those sales and how many people are playing it and that kind of stuff.
It's like every gaming news article.
Yeah, it feels like it sucked all the air out of every other game right now, and there's lots of good stuff out. Like this feels like a normal year's November in terms of what's coming out, and we're all sitting there talking about the same game that I'm being 100% straight up. This is not any other reason. I think it looks boring as fuck. I know I'm not the target audience. I've never been a big Harry Potter guy, but like I'm watching the streamers play, and it's like, oh, we got to wander through here, and it's another fetch quest, and it's another fetch quest, but the fetch quests are fun to them because they know this character, they know this person. But to me, it's like, holy shit, it's a whole game of fetch quests.
Like,
I
here's
just
the
saw
thing.
a clip of the combat and was just like, oh man.
Why is it like a third-person shooter?
Yeah, like
here's the thing.
Dragon Age 2 combat, actually.
Yeah, like you're spinning around to throw wand spells. Does that like make the spell hit harder if you do a little, half jump? Like it's
except they're shooting the characters going incendio, 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 incendio.
Like a LARP video with lightning bolt.
See, someone who like grew up on Harry Potter, this is not the Harry Potter game I would want, even if J.K. Rowling weren't an awful human being. Like you say, like these streamers are into it because they recognize these characters. I'm like, they do?
Well, yeah.
This is that's
the
so
thing.
weird.
Yeah.
Like this is like set in the 1800s. Why do I care about this prequel?
Yeah.
Like, why do I care about any of these people? Because I know where this is going to go eventually.
Like, are they like the great 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 grandfather of like a Weasley?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that?
He grows.
Yeah, you're like meeting all the ancestors, and it's like,
who
well,
cares?
then it just cheapens the world because it's like, oh, it's a small world and everyone's grandparents knew each other. I'm like, why did they all marry each other? Like,
yeah, like no wonder.
Why did they bone down, man?
Here's what this reminds me though. WB specifically has made this kind of like their house, their Ubi level of climbing towers to reveal shit in a way, because this is exactly what they did with Lord of the Rings. If you think back, right, they started making those RPGs that were like, you play as not Legolas, not Gimli, and not Aragorn as you go through.
What was that?
Like,
The Third Age? Is that what that?
yeah, Third Age, and then they started to kind of like do like the War in the North, and then they like this feels exactly like they went to their own back catalog and said, what the hell do we do with that one thing we didn't really know what to make video games about? Oh yeah, Lord of the Rings. What do we do? I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, shit, can we make a Harry Potter RTS?
I'd play a Harry Potter RTS.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
It's like I feel exactly like what I felt like when WB started with the Lord of the Rings license before they got to the kind of the Shadows series, right, where it was just like, you guys have no fucking clue what you're doing, and you kind of succeed sometimes in spite of yourself. Like that one JRPG style one was actually really good. Battle for Middle Earth kind of worked in a weird way, even though it shouldn't, because it had really good mechanics built in there. But I don't know, like I feel like that's exactly what they're taking their own playbook from, and I got no interest in the fucking game. And it feels like I have to like care about it one way or another, and it's just like it's tough for me. I just like the game looks boring. My kid was super into getting it, and like I was like, shit, we're gonna have a tough call and everything. And then I sat and watched a couple streams with him. I was ready, like, hey, we can't support this, But he's like, this game looks boring. It's like,
problem solved.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you're right.
You don't have to have the turf talk.
Yeah, because he was like, like watching like what some of his favorite streamers, and they're just playing it, and it's like the whole first part is you taking classes and running fetch quests for these professors and this stuff, and it is a lot of talking. I think even most RPG diehard fans are like, wow, this is a lot of exposition, and seeing him just be like, nah, I'm gonna go play some more Fortnite was kind of like such a relief in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, go crank those 90s. Don't worry about this game for now.
All right. Another game that came out in February, it was actually shadow dropped a couple days earlier, was the remaster of Metroid Prime, which apparently Nintendo had been holding on to for a while, so they could do that shadow drop right there. People have been talking a lot about this. I don't know. I've never played it.
You never played the
I
first
think
one?
they did this just so it would make the reboot of Prime go down a little bit easier with the fans. I'm still holding on to that.
They're not They're not rebooting it a second time. They're just slow.
I've watched a few
You know
people
what?
play it. Go ahead.
If they're gonna, they can keep delaying Metroid Prime as long as they want. If the way they're gonna make it up to us is to continually just be like, "Hey, look, we made an entirely new 2D Metroid. It's fantastic. Here, it's out now. Please enjoy."
Exactly. That's
Right.
the way they just
This is
make
a remaster of the first one.
Prime 4 comes out of the Switch 3.
Like it just
All
is
right.
the TV at that point. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it looks fun. All those old Metroids always feel fun to me. You know, just kind of that goofy glide around style of gameplay. But seeing that UI really did bring me back to like, wow, maybe things were. That is a very busy UI.
Yeah. It's like, intentionally so, from what I understand, but like
levels of missile loading and like, wow, this is a lot to, you know, kind of visually take in. I was trying to think, like, what were TVs looking like when that released?
They were still like
This-
4:3 TVs.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Would that have stretched better, you think, and it just looks weird because they're messing with the aspect, or was that it just looks weird, period?
I think it just looks weird. but what do I
It's
know?
a lot going on. That is a busy UI. So I was like, maybe this looked better on old TVs, but then I was kind of like talking myself out of it. I'm like, no, it would have looked worse, you know, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think mainly it was the environments that people latched onto more so than the UI, which is more of an immersion thing. But again, I never played the original Metroid Prime. I ordered it, but Amazon is dumb and they're not going to. Or the physical release date's supposed to be tomorrow, as of this recording. But Amazon is not honoring my pre-order, so they can go kick rocks.
Physical...
They pushed mine to like March 15th.
Yeah, same for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm probably just gonna shake hands with the devil and
Yeah.
go to GameStop and pick it up and cancel this order. I shouldn't say shake hands with the devil. That actually means something here in Canada. Let's not go down that road.
That is
LittleMac will know what I'm talking
long
about.
delay. I could understand
I
a
know.
week or two, but wow, that is. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, this isn't the first. Sorry, it's a tangent here, but this isn't the first Amazon game that I've had this happen to. That Labyrinth Refrain, the one that came out on Switch a couple weeks ago, that got pushed back for me like 2 weeks. I just got it like yesterday.
And you know what's crazy? I was going to say, speaking of physical releases, I kind of docked myself a little bit. What's that company that does all the actual like weird physical releases for games these days? It's kind of a
Limited run.
Limited run. They're like 15 miles from my house. I had no clue. And that you can go in there, like it's like a store, and you can go in there.
Oh yeah, I heard that
so
store's great.
I'm gonna go check that out and kind of report back. I'm really curious what they've got in the store because it sounds like there's like limited runs of limited runs if I want to go in there and check it out. So I might go check
It
that out.
sounds like we should be able to do a live Project Cyberpunk segment. That's what I'm getting from this.
I'm just gonna because this era's like been getting into like the techie side for a while now, and I think that's a really cool thing to have around here.
Yeah, because you've got the universities, so you have the talent pool.
Yeah.
You have Epic Games, which is growing.
And Epic
So
is
it
growing
does-
in a weird way too. They're not just growing Fortnite; they're growing their engine creation. I mean, they built a mall, or they bought a mall to basically make their corporate headquarters, and they're like teaching people to use Unreal in that mall all day. So, go Raleigh, I guess. But I really want to check that place out. But limited physical releases, I feel like you're rolling such a dice these days with physical releases because there seems to always be that one guy who gets the game 2 weeks before it comes out, and then everybody else who's like, yeah, this shit never showed up, and you know, I'm gonna sail the seven seas now. I have to play a game I already bought. It was just weird. I thought we were past that. You know?
Yeah,
I thought Amazon had a little bit of a better distribution channel for this stuff, but glad to hear it's not just like a Canada exclusive problem.
No.
I mean, I'm not glad for you, Andy. Sorry.
Yeah.
But,
We're
like,
glad we hope you never play it.
yeah, I hope you drown. No, at least it's a little comforting to know that this is a widespread problem and not Amazon exacting some grudge on me for the time I returned something that they broke. So
Um, so the other game I wanted to bring up was Wild Hearts. This one was kind of surprising because I think people keep calling it an EA game. It is not an EA game. I think they're just publishing it, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Koei Tecmo developed it.
Yeah.
EA is publishing
It looks really good, and I do not like Monster Hunter games. I know that's shocking, but um, this looked really fun to me. I was watching a bunch of people play it. It just there's something about it where it feels very Monster. I'm not gonna lie, but there's just something about the goofiness of the combat, the feeling of like kind of that Dynasty Warriors feel where you're kind of chopping through stuff, and I like the building. I think it's smart to kind of include in there, but I don't know.
I've been told it's a mashup of Monster Hunter and Death Stranding.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Ooh.
But it kind of came out of nowhere, at least for me. I wasn't thinking anything about it, and then EA is EA. But I actually really was looking at getting this game, surprisingly, and I bounced off of Monster Hunter harder than basically any game ever. So
Yeah.
What I've heard is that you should definitely wait for a patch because the performance currently on PC is not great and extremely CPU bottlenecked.
oh really?
Yeah.
Well,
But they probably will patch it probably a few months down the road. Who knows? Which is a shame because this, from what I've heard, this is something really special. And if it weren't just a complete technical mess, it would be a genuine
Wow.
contender for
Yeah.
Game of the Year. Another game that came out recently that actually started last night. I alluded to terrible dialogue earlier. It's a game called Atomic Heart.
yeah.
Mm.
I've got like
so-
30 minutes into it. So
Yeah, I just started combat. That's
Okay.
where I ended up. So this is kind of, I guess you'd call it Soviet Bioshock.
oh yeah. Yeah. Now
So it's set in an alternate history where the Soviet Union developed a polymer-based technology that enabled rapid technological advancement. But of course, behind every rapid technological advancement, there's a dark side, and this game is kind of about delving into that dark side. When things go horribly awry and robots rebel. So far, all I've done is walk around, and it's extremely pretty, but also kind of boring, and all the dialogue is awful.
yeah, the dialogue is bad. Like not fun bad.
Have you ever played as a main character where you wish you could walk up to a mirror in game and just punch yourself?
Yeah, it was a game called Haze, and it was supposed to be a Halo killer. I don't know where this game goes. I've got no idea, but this is going to be really stupid because I feel like I'm the only person who played this game. But there was kind of a game, I want to say it was either set in Russia or like an alternate history Russia, where you're kind of like flipping back and forth through time.
Singularity?
Singularity. And that was a really well-received game. That to me is where this game maybe takes a few more clues than maybe even Bioshock. But I don't know if that was a popular enough game to really ever claim that someone would use it for inspiration. But I'm enjoying it so far, but it's got that level of, well, I don't know if in these more enlightened times you might not say Eastern European jank, but that's what we used to call it back in the olden days.
Oh yeah, it's got some of that Eurojank for sure.
It's got it on there, and there's a thick layer. You're like, man.
It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, imagine you took Eurojank, but instead of fixing the jank, you just polished it to a diamond sheen.
And then made it part of the game.
Yeah, so it looks gorgeous and it runs well, but it still feels weird to play.
Yep.
It's so hard. Like,
They give you
the movement is so weird.
Right.
You start sprinting and then you immediately walk. I don't get it.
It gives you, I think your main weapon is supposed to be that axe, unless I'm doing something wrong, right? A melee weapon is kind of, you know how Bioshock, most of the time you're whacking people with a wrench, right? So I think they're kind of trying to do something with that, but the melee feels so weird. Like your power attack spins you around, but like it kind of animates it. It doesn't look like you're hitting anything because it's like imagine if you were a 5-year-old and somebody said, "Hey, do a power attack with this axe," and you're like, just spun around with it. That's what the attack feels like, but you're doing this like for half the game so far. really weird decision. I don't know.
I haven't actually fired a bullet yet.
Oh, yeah,
All I've done
axe.
is smash robots with axe, wrench, club. I don't even know what the hell it is.
even when
I've just been smashing robots.
Even when you go for the robots, it never, at least, I don't know, maybe you feel this way, but it never feels like I'm really connecting with them. It feels like I'm getting close enough to them with my axe where it plays the explosion animation, but I never feel like I'm like crunching into a robot with an axe like you should, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel that, but I I think that's something that's going to differ from player to player.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
can definitely see where you're coming from. Like it's not even unenjoyable. It just doesn't feel 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything feels like it's just kind of 5% wrong.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it just kind of accumulates where everything is ever so slightly off from the optimal, best feeling version of itself.
What's kind of weird too is everybody's kind of like making fun of that trailer with the Supernatural guy that came out, right? It was goofy, but
Jensen Ackles.
yeah, I wish the game had that tone actually, though. I mean, that's what I like. As I was playing, I was like, I almost wish it was silly about how dumb some of this stuff was. Have you gotten to the part yet with like the lab animals and the lab?
No, I've only gotten 45
I'm
minutes
not gonna
in,
spoil
so
anything then. But like,
I literally just I have not fired a bullet
Okay.
yet. I've just gone to the underground part where I've gone through a few rooms, seen a few cutscenes, and smashed a few robots.
it's also a game I feel like that has some puzzles that doesn't need puzzles. I don't know. I'm not gonna die on this though because I know people love fucking puzzles for some goddamn reason. But
I'm a puzzle
I know.
guy. I'd probably like super dig the puzzle. Like, give me more of these crazy ass like battery puzzles.
Such a dialed
The game should be that.
atmospheric FPS that I don't know. It takes me out of it. Where like all of a sudden I'm having to look at these little like weird glyphs and figure out. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like it should be more of an Uncharted thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, if I'm uncovering lost and buried treasure, sure, but if I'm trying to stop a robot rebellion, maybe I don't want to be stopping to match the polarity on two different magnets.
Exactly. Yeah. I do like the lockpick mini game. That is a cool feeling. Have you done that yet?
No, not
Okay.
yet. But I'll play more of it tonight. I'll see how I feel. I don't think I'm going to end up hating this
Yeah.
game. I think I'm going to walk away with a...
It's a 7 out of 10. I bet you.
Yeah,
for
it's
most
7 out of
people.
10. It was interesting. There are some interesting bits. There are some terrible bits. Some good bits. Overall, not disappointed to have played it. I think that's where I'm going to end up. But
Yeah.
it's entirely possible that eventually this game's just going to piss me off
Yeah.
and then I'm going to dive off a cliff. Because I've had that before. Like, games that start off okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this. And then at some point, I'm just like, no, screw this game, go to hell.
I just think that this was like basically my one new gameplay entry for the podcast, and it just hit the bricks an hour ago before the podcast started. So
Yeah. A couple of other games from February that I just wanted to mention. Finally, Like a Dragon Ishin has reached Western shores in remake form after its, I believe, 2014 original Japanese release was not localized. So now you can go enjoy life in 19th century Kyoto.
now, help me out here because I just got into the Yakuza. What was that like? When did it come to Game Pass? Like a year ago now? 2 years ago? I don't know. It's the
Yeah, a couple
pandemic.
years
It could've
ago.
been 5 years. So I enjoyed it. Where is this in like Yakuza? Is this canon? Is this alternate history? Is this a baseline for some of these characters, or is this just its own thing totally?
Okay, so it's canon, but to reality, not to the canon of the game.
Okay.
In the sense that it's a retelling of actual historical events with some spice thrown in.
All right.
So these are actual historical figures, but think of it like a stage play where the characters from the mainline Yakuza or Like a Dragon series are playing characters in historical stage play.
Okay, gotcha. So this is
So that's why,
Master
like,
Chief was George
Ryoma...
Washington. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a very good way to
they
put
should
it.
make that happen. I would love Master Chief of George
It came out
Washington.
of my mouth. I'm like, wait.
I would love him to take down a cherry tree with a needler.
Cortana, I gotta chop down this tree. But
Make it
yeah,
happen.
I'm really interested in this one. The combat looks really good to me. I mean, that was I think what I missed a lot with Yakuza was I never really gave it credit for the combat being as good as it is until I actually started to play it. But it's really enjoyable. So yeah, I want to try check this one out. I like that kind of like swords guns era in Japanese history. I think that's such a cool time period.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just installed it on my PS5. So once we're done here,
Well,
time's
here's
ticking,
kind of
guys. Time's ticking, guys. I gotta.
here's kind of a
Gotta
general
go beat up
question
some
I wanted
thugs.
to ask. Do you guys think that this is a really busy January, February because of like pandemic related delays from a year ago, or is this just a really weird dumping ground time where these games are actually good, or what I can't explain why all these games are coming out right now, and these are pretty good, you know, games that normally would be holiday releases types.
I feel like a lot of these should have come out like back in October, November. And for whatever reason, I just think there were delays, maybe pandemic related, maybe you know, there's been a lot of talk about crunch culture. Maybe that is actually kind of finally getting into these executives' minds.
Yeah,
about,
I would love it. That was
maybe
the
we
case.
need to take our time with these games. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, it's a very bizarre first quarter. Because I've been doing new releases since what, like 2018, and this is like the busiest January, February I've ever had. Like typically I'm like, all right, I can relax in January.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, like the last 2 weeks, I think there were like 35 new games or something like that. It's just insane how many games are coming out, and not just big ones. There's a ton of small titles coming out, and they all look cool too.
Yep.
Yeah, like I've played a whole bunch of. I've finished 3 really good indie games this year. A Space for the Unbound, which is like this pixel art adventure game set in Indonesia in the 1990s. Really great. Currently my game of the year, but you know, early. We're early on. Played Back Firewall, which is like this dark comedy 3D first-person puzzler set inside someone's cell phone. I've played Birth, which is this weird macabre 2D point-and-click physics puzzler where you're like a lonely person in a big city and you're Frankensteining together a friend from Organs and Bones. Really messed up, but really cool. And like these are just like 3 indie games that I've played, but there's so many other indies that have come out. I mean, we mentioned, I don't know if you'd call it Blah an indie game, but it's there. Like there's Pizza Tower that people really
Pizza
loved.
Tower.
Yeah, and there have been a whole bunch of others. So definitely go check out some indies.
Yeah, weird time though. I mean, like that. It was when we were going through this pod. I think you sent me this about a week ago, right? The what we were going to be talking about. I was like, wow.
I sent it to you yesterday.
Yes, it was like I was reading it and I was like, I cannot believe there is this many games to talk about in February, right?
Yeah, and February's not even done.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't even reached the end of the list.
Company Heroes
well.
and Destiny.
Oh, we still have an entire like console to talk about that's dropping tomorrow.
Yeah.
So before we actually get to Company of Heroes, let's just mention the PSVR 2 is coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't really care about VR personally, but it is a big deal for this to be dropping.
What is? I feel like I'm asking the wrong people. What is the difference between the VR1 and VR2? Are there like hardware differences? Is it a software difference? Is it okay?
Both.
Yeah, it's
Got
both.
it.
In fact, the VR2 is not even backwards compatible with the VR1, which is crazy.
What?
I don't know what the hell Sony's thinking, but that's what they're doing.
What did the PlayStation VR lifespan look like? 2 years?
Kinda, yeah. I don't know.
All right, so you're gonna get You're gonna get VR2 now?
It launched in 2016, so it's actually had a
Really?
Oh, really?
reasonably healthy lifespan, which I would not have expected before
I think that's why it's not backwards compatible. I don't think people remember that it
I
came
can
out.
only think of like 2 or 3 games period that came out for it. There's that Tetris
Like Beat
game,
Saber?
and there's Beat Saber. What else did it
There was
have?
an
Big
Iron Man
releases?
VR game. They made a big bundle when Iron Man VR came out. It was like July 4th of 2019 or something like that.
Man, I'm just surprised. I thought it was way newer, but I can't think of many system sellers that they really pushed it out with. And this one's big one is Horizon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the 5th most popular Sony franchise.
Yeah.
So really putting all the weight behind this one.
Yeah, I mean the new Horizon also just came out, so it's like,
Well, it wouldn't be a Horizon release if they didn't shit on it in some way by making
Right,
it compete with, giant other huge releases. So
Yeah.
I guess that's keeping with Horizon just in general. I bless you if you like VR, but I learned my lesson. That stuff is very tough for me to stick with.
Yeah, I would never own one, but I enjoy it whenever I try it out. But I wouldn't be able to play it for hours on end.
I get about 30 minutes, and there's very few reasons for me. Like, I actually think weirdly that Tetris game might have been the perfect VR game for me, because that's about how long I want to play Tetris, and it's about how long I can stay.
Yeah.
I know there's people who play Tetris
Sorry.
all day, but ain't me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Andy,
if
sorry, you were
technology-
mentioning something? Oh, sorry. LittleMac, go ahead.
I don't know if the technology of VR is ever going to, at least while I'm alive, get to a point that lives up to what I would have pictured it being when I was a kid. That would make it worth playing for me.
I think the thing about like growing up and thinking about VR is it's hard for me. I never really pictured like the weight, the heat, the eye. You know what I mean? Like the physical parts of being in VR for me are it's just tough. Like I can't do it. And maybe I could have when I was younger if I got used to it, but that's the part that stops me about VR really, the physical part of it. But that's part of the whole experience. You can't really do much about that.
Yeah, and like, when I think about it, it's like, okay, if I could put on a helmet and now I'm in Orlando and I can walk around, that's really cool. But you can't actually walk around. You'll bump into the wall.
You also get sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like there are strong constraints here on the degree to which you can actually be in this world. By strapping a thing onto your face.
So what I like about VR, and this isn't PSVR related, I don't know if they'll get this game, but Valve put out Half-Life Alyx. What was that, a couple years ago?
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine has. A friend of mine, he has a whole VR set up, like a whole room dedicated to VR, and so there's a lot of space to play. So maybe I think that's what you need. But when I put on the headset and played Half-Life Alyx, I was I was very like, oh, VR is not stupid, but I was like, it's not gonna do anything for me. I'm not gonna have any reaction to it. It's probably gonna make me feel sick. It's a gimmick. And I put that headset on it, and like you said, you wanted to feel like you were in a world. Like I put it on, and I'm in this fucking world. Like it was there. It was almost like being at like Disneyland, where you're just kind of in this kind of like, everything around you is fake, but it looks so real and it feels real. Like that's just how it felt. Like I'm in this dilapidated city. There's a whole room full of garbage and junk, and I can pick all of it up. And I'm like, this is just like it felt like I was in any room, like a real room in real life. And the way Alyx works is you can walk and it'll track your movement, or you can push the thumbstick and you'll move. But the best part of it for me and my motion sickness is you can actually kind of like plot a point a few feet ahead of you, and you'll just kind of teleport to that spot. And it feels like it almost sounds like it would be more disorienting, but it wasn't. It kind of helped my brain realize, okay, you're not actually here, so you're just kind of like moving from set piece to set piece. And I never felt anything more real in a video game than I had playing Alyx. So if that ever made it to PSVR 2, I would be ecstatic, but I don't think it will. But yeah, I would say don't give up on VR until you've played something like Alyx, because it feels so. It just feels so. It felt so real, and it was so immersive.
Maybe I need to seek that out. Maybe I gotta give it a shot.
What do you think is maybe like the goal of PSVR specifically though? Do you think it's always going to be like, hey, here's this game you know and love, and it's a little like side quest from it, or it's a little taste of it, or are they going to really develop games just for it? Because I think that's what
it depends on how well what is this New Horizon one called? Shadow of the Mountain or whatever it's called.
Call of the Mountain.
I think it depends on how well that does and what that game even is. You know, I haven't seen a lot of video about what you actually do in the game. I don't know if it's just a kind of collection of kind of VR mini games in the Horizon world, or if it's an actual fleshed out game.
It's mostly a climbing game
Okay.
mixed with some, I guess you call it first-person shooter segments with a bow and arrow, I believe.
But, you know, if that flops or it doesn't sell well or it's not well received, that's a very I don't know how to describe it. It's like that's not a Horizon experience to me, right? Necessarily. So
yeah.
I wonder, like, if you want to.
It's a climbing experience in the franchise where you famously can't climb.
Like, if that was an Assassin's Creed experience, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I always feel like everybody kind of dips toes into VR except for one
Right.
company, and that's Meta. Like, I feel like everybody else is like, yeah, maybe someone will come along and make this work, which is exactly what Microsoft did with Kinect, right? Maybe someone will come and find out a cool gimmick for this or a cool. But you know when this works is when Nintendo is like, we'll figure this out. We'll make this fun.
Yeah.
We will be the ones who do this, not wait for some third party to come along and be like, this justifies a purchase of a VR headset.
They kind of tried with Labo, and it was not great.
No.
But waggle work, you know, like, it's weird stuff. Like
I don't think they ever did. I just
Well,
think it was a
Wii
gimmick
Sports,
that
at least,
people...
was.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair
that
enough.
was the greatest video game selling point for Waggle in history. But yeah, did it not work for Mad World or all those other little weird games? No.
Oh, Mad World was so good.
It didn't need Waggle. I'll put it that
No,
way.
but the waggle. No, when you're like, you know, like grabbing a dude and breaking his neck, and you actually have to like,
Waggle.
yeah, no, that was good. Let's not.
Fair enough, yeah.
How about this? The Marvel Ultimate Alliance game, when they ported it to Wii and they just shoehorned in, like, instead of pressing X to do your ability, you can try to do the waggle that's shaped like a J.
Yeah, I'm sure lots of people were using that instead of pressing X.
I don't want to feel like I'm conducting an orchestra when I'm trying to slice someone's head off.
Mm-hmm.
Artistic, that's very Dexter, right? But yeah, I guess that's my thing. Like, I think PlayStation's got to put up or shut up if they're going to keep selling VRs. And I mean, I think if a alternate experience in Horizon is your big, this is what's going to get people buying, I don't know if that's going to cut the mustard. You know?
Well, here's the thing that for me, a VR game, if you want me to play a video game, give me a video game, right? Like Resident Evil Village, you're going to be able to play that in VR, and that's great because that's a real video game that I can experience. All these other VR games, for lack of a better term, are just mini games, in my opinion. You know, they're fun little, like, oh, I can shoot a gun, but my hands look like, you know, Iron Man's, and I'm shooting stuff out of it. It's like, that's cool for 5 minutes, but like with Half-Life Alyx, I can play this for, you know, hours.
Yeah, and I think that's why they've kind of famously been careful about calling a lot of those VR releases like experiences. You know what I mean? Or like stuff like that. They've always kind of used these little buzzy weasel words to basically be like, yeah, this isn't really a video game.
Yeah.
It's like, you can kind of pretend to be Iron Man if you do this, but, you know, it's not an Iron Man game. No one's going to call it that, right? So,
it's like a museum piece almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you're looking at a picture of an Iron Man game.
It's like that Radiohead experience that they put out a couple years ago.
Oh,
do you guys remember that?
Yeah,
Kid Amnesia or whatever.
Pay for it or whatever. Yeah,
it was free. Yeah, I believe that actually was in VR as well. Like, I played it, the non-VR version of it, but I believe you could play it in VR. I'll have to look that up.
You know, I don't know. I feel like if we're talking about it as a console, and you've announced, you know, if it's launching with one game, how many consoles have you guys ever seen that launch with one game? You know?
Switch.
Yeah. Although there are something like 20 games coming out for it at launch, though. But a lot of them are ports. So.
I mean, VR. I don't know. I would love to be wrong about VR, but I've been hurt too many times. I remember, like, I must have been like 7 or 8, and they had like a VR thing at the mall, and it was like kind of like strap into like a massage table. It was wild, you know?
Yeah.
It's like like that was always the thing for me. I mean, I want to be walking on treadmills. I want to be hanging, with wires from the ceiling. And there's some streamers who do all that with VR and they make it look awesome. And but then like it's hard to translate to what they're seeing and feeling to just watching a screen. And I've been to PAX 4 or 5 times now, and they've always had VR things, and it's just always kind of like it's always left me a little dry. Even the PlayStation ones, because kind of famously, I think I told you like they had to do like the comeback at 2 because there's a big line, and then you come back at 2, and they tell you to come back at 4, and like you never really actually play the game because they just keep bumping you in line for journalists. But I never really, even when I played at those types of in best case scenarios where you're playing and everything's perfect and all that, like it's always felt like it's just a lot. It's a lot to maintain. It's a lot to do. It's a lot to and I don't know. I would love to be wrong about VR, but at this point, I don't know if I'm going to be.
Yeah. All right. Before we move on talking about a few more games, I did want to mention and clarify about the Switch. It did not come out with just one game. It also came out with the very fondly remembered 1-2 Switch and Super Balaran R.
All the hits that people talk about.
Exactly.
I am probably the one person who fondly remembers 1-2 Switch.
We found him! Guys, we found him, finally! We found the one guy!
Basket from Miyamoto.
That immediate aftermath of the release of the Switch, I think I must have probably like closer to 10 than to 5 parties that I managed to get together and convince people to split off into like 2 teams of 8 and like make it a whole big thing. And
oh, you got like the entirety of PEI to come.
and had a ton of fun like that.
Yeah, we're all gonna pile into Dave's house in Charlottetown. Play some 1-2 Switch.
But yeah, I like if you could only get like even like 4 people together, I don't think that was a party game in the very literal sense. That like everyone's got to be there. It's got to be raging.
Yeah, I feel like, and I don't mean this as an insult. I feel like that's the kind of game that's better with alcohol.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as a teetotaler. I don't know why I'm encouraging people to drink. Yeah, but I do feel like these like. I know, like, it's easy to make fun of these kind of party experiences, but they do have an audience.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And if they're well made, yeah, why not? Go out and play 1-2 Switch. Kappa, I interrupted you earlier. We started talking about Company of Heroes 3,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I think you're excited
Oh,
for.
yeah. Well, I don't want to play as Nazis first. It's always awkward when talking about this game. It's like, yeah, I really can't wait to see what they do with the German African campaign. Where it's like, nah, like that is always awkward when it comes to this. I think they're trying to find kind of some type of workaround to it. Like especially with games that I know I'm going to buy, I kind of go into like a little bit of a blackout mode. So I've been seeing some people on the avocado kind of talking about it and like, hey, here's how it's going to be handled. And I think that's smart because you don't want to play as Nazis in video games ever. But it's also hard if you're going to play an RTS set in World War II to just be like, here's the Allies and also the Allies and also the Allies. It's, especially because, Germany had kind of cool shit and people want to play with the cool shit that the Germans had in World War II. But that doesn't translate well in gameplay where it's like Nazis overpowered, So,
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to see a victory screen where like Nazi flag is flying behind
gun furling.
Oh yeah.
So Company of Heroes to me, this is a studio that I feel like has learned so many lessons from so many games at so many different parts of time, and it's like, can they ever put it all together in one game, right? It's like a two-step forward, two-step back all the time with them. With between like Dawn of War 2 and Dawn of War 3, people love Dawn of War 2, right? Dawn of War 3, one of the most hated games of all times. I think Company of Heroes 1, beloved game. Company of Heroes 2, why did you put all this weird microtransaction shit in here? So there's a lot of that going on here. I think 3 has to be their effort to really kind of open people back up to like, hey, this is what you can do with an RTS that doesn't, it doesn't money grab and also, doesn't really kind of make you play what you don't want to play, which is Nazis all the time. So I don't know. I'm optimistic. I'm excited for any RTS is going to get me to buy it. You know, like not even like, you know, will I buy this? It's like it's a day one purchase. The only thing I always have to do now is wait and see if it shows up on Game Pass for some reason, because I've been lucky on that Game Pass for RTSs.
It'll be on console later this year.
Oh, will it? All right, there you
Yeah.
go. Time to wait. So,
that'll be perfect.
yeah. But yeah, I really enjoy the style of Company Heroes battle management, if that makes sense. Like where your resources are not just, you know, how fast can you create SCVs or whatever to mine this, to do this. It's about holding and taking territory and being a little bit, you know, out there with your armies and pushing areas that you might not normally push if you were playing a, you know, holding your base type RTS. So I like Company of Heroes the way the games are designed, but it is always awkward to be like, well, shit, I got to play as the Nazis. So hopefully, if they can kind of make that problem go away, I can like this.
Yeah, maybe it will be.
But, and you know, I got to talk about Lightfall. This is it. It's the big one. Darkness is here. The Traveler almost left us, but nobody cares about Destiny. Trust me, everybody in Destiny's losing their mind over this expansion. This is...
I've heard it's very hotly anticipated.
It is...
Yeah.
The lore has finally caught up with the story, and that is an exciting point for any video game series to get to, is if you've been telling me about the big bad for this long, and here they are, and they are not playing around, and they have every power that they said they were going to have. It's going to be a good one. Destiny's got a lot of proper nouns and a proper, you know, and stuff like that going on, and I know it's not for everyone, but it's a really cool story about basically, you know, we talk about darkness and light as good and evil, but it's not. It's, you know, death and life are a cycle. It's a rebirth, and we've been kind of picking one side this whole time, and the other side shows up, and it's like, hey, why'd you pick this side? It's kind of weird. You know, I can give you more. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool spot, and I want to see where they go with it.
God, I haven't played Destiny 2 in like 5 years.
Yeah, it's gotten a big old face change. Honestly, it's almost a different game. You know, so one of the things is they had to basically sunset a lot of stuff, and that caused a lot of, you know, pain points in the community. But truthfully, it's like the game got too big, if that makes sense, and they more or less had to say, hey, you know, we've got to trim this game down. And you lost kind of that vanilla Destiny feel and those missions and stuff, but they replace it with, you know, a new season every year basically. So it's a expanding, growing game. But like a lot of MMOs, I don't know how many MMOs you play, but you know, even when you make a new character, you're like, shit, I don't want to go back to the Barrens, and you know, it's like you kind of outgrow some of those areas.
Yeah.
And I think Destiny had outgrown the Red War campaign in a lot of ways. So I don't like to make excuses for them taking away parts of the game that people paid for, but I think at some point, if you're doing an ongoing type game, you've got to admit that parts of the game become less and less relevant as time goes on.
I guess do
they have kind of like an onboarding treadmill for new players?
It sucks. The best way, if you want to get into Destiny, find a friend. Honestly, I mean, as someone who loves it, plays it, keeps up with it, everything, it is a very tough game. It throws a lot at you, and not all of it is important anymore because of, you know, just the nature of a live game. You know, if somebody was to say, look, hey, you know, I want to get into Destiny, I want to play it for the story, I want to be able to do some of the content, what should I do? And you know, a good friend would say, look, I'm going to help you. I'm going to put you on this treadmill for, you know, the next couple of weeks, and we're going to go do these 3-4 things and get you what you need so that you can kind of really experience the story. But I mean, the story in Destiny at this point is like, it is insane. There are, you know, negative ionized beings that are controlled and represent certain planets, and the planets are trying to help us in our fight against the darkness. And there's the winnower, which is a type of anti-gardener, and the gardener grows and the winnower weeds, but it both allows for life. And it's just I mean, like,
I don't know what any of this
metaphorical
means.
shit that you're like, what? So, but here's the thing, this has always been the case with Destiny, because people are like, oh, there's no story. They separate the story from the game in a really big way, because 90% of people want to jump in and just shoot shit in the face, right? And they know it. So if you're not into the lore isn't going to be in your face. It's there if you want to look at it or look into it, but you almost got to go to like YouTube channels and these little, they call themselves lore hobbits, you know, and it's the type of people who are like, this is why this thing happened, this is why it's important, and they'll get into how important is it that we're a paracausal entity that exists outside of time. Oh, it's very important, here's why. But the average person doesn't give a shit. It's like, whatever, I died and my ghost brought me back, good enough, I'm ready to go shoot some more stuff. So if it's there and you're interested in it, it's there. But I think it's a lot like Elden Ring and Souls lore. I bet you a lot of Souls people will be mad at that I said Destiny lore is like Souls lore because they love that shit. But it's kind of the same, right? Like, I can play Elden Ring and just hit shit with a sword, right? And I don't care why the haunted swamp has a witch from a million years ago. It doesn't matter, right? It's kind of the same thing in Destiny. If you want the lore, it's there. If you don't, hey, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not going to change what you shoot shit in the face with. Lightfall, I'm fucking stoked. You have no idea.
I can sense that.
I actually really am. The lore part, to me, I love it. I can't wait to see what happens. And like, the way they've been playing up this is like, it's extremely like, we've been promised something from two different sides, and we've been tricked by the side that we thought was the side of good, and it fucking, like, when shit came down, it looked like it was gonna leave. The Traveler took off. Like, in our time of need, it was like, cool, good luck. And it's done that before. And one of the enemies we fight all the time, the Fallen, had this event called the Whirlwind, where the Traveler was under attack by the darkness, and it was like, peace, see you later, good luck, and left them and abandoned them to the darkness, right? And it was gonna do that again, but for some reason it stopped. And that's kind of where the lore is at this point in the season. Why did the Traveler stay, and what did it see that made it want to stop and fight the darkness rather than fail like it has on every other civilization that's come between it and the darkness before? So, real nerd shit.
I feel like this is the kind of thing that I'd be invested in if I had, like, kind of gotten into Destiny on the ground floor.
It's like any MMO. Like, what keeps you in an MMO, right? Is it crafting? You like hanging out with your guild? Do you want to do the highest end content? Like, what keeps you in MMO is always kind of a personal choice, right? So having that be the story is actually a really cool option for an FPS, I think, because I don't think many FPSs have you, maybe outside, I don't know, maybe that's not true. I don't know how many FPSs, I'll put it that way, keep you staying from story to story. Like, are people really that invested in Doom Eternal's story? I don't know, but
probably not. I think of Destiny's more of something like Genshin Impact, where people do follow that story over quite a while. I've kind of dropped off Genshin now. I haven't fired it in months, but that was kind of the same. I was playing Weeaboo Destiny. I don't know why I'm calling it Weeaboo Destiny. It's from China, not Japan, but you know what I mean. A couple of other games I wanted to mention that are coming out in a few days. One is Octopath Traveler 2, which has been receiving a lot of great reviews across the board. Sequel to the popular Octopath Traveler 1. And this other game that I thought would have been getting a lot more coverage, but no one's really talking about it, called Scars Above, which is a third-person shooter being published by Prime Matter, which I believe is one of Embracer Group's many, like 30, 50, 80 divisions. It looks aggressively okay, but I thought it would be getting a lot more press, and it's not, which is confusing because it's coming out in a week.
No, I mean, like, did you know that there was a new Settlers game that came out 2 days ago?
I did, and the only reason I know is because I read a news story about how no one was, how about, like, Ubisoft sent it out to die, essentially.
They just shoved it out the door.
New game releases.
What's that?
I also talked about it in new game.
Did you? Okay.
Just another plug.
I can't believe, like, Settlers was am I wrong, or was I just naive? I thought Settlers was a big series. Like, maybe not like, a system seller top line Assassin's Creed type thing, but I mean, that's a very, very specific genre that I think Settlers has owned for a long time now, right?
It's weird to me that Ubisoft owns all these strategy franchises, like Settlers, like Anno was the other one I was thinking of, and they keep making these games but have no respect for them whatsoever.
The Heroes of Might and Magic series, did you know they own that? They've
Yeah,
just shit out
I knew
4
that.
or 5 of them that no one fucking talks about. And then you got to hear about them losing money all the time. And it's like, you guys got these franchises that if you just put the fucking effort in there, the fans exist, you know? And having to tell people that hey, you like Settlers? Yeah, it was a real cool series. A new one just came out. Like, what the fuck, right?
You know how I know that French tax law is different from American tax law?
Why's that?
It's that if they would have pulled a Batgirl
Oh yeah,
with
cancel
this
it.
game, if French tax law allowed for it. Like that's what I'm guessing, because you don't put it out with no advertising
weirdly,
if you expect to make any returns
if
on
you
it.
run the Uplay launcher, it kind of tells you about new games and stuff, right? So like they've always got like a section where it's just like, hey, here's just all the game news for all the different games, right? The number one thing about Settlers wasn't like, you know, like, hey, here's the cool factions, here's the lore. What it was, hey, these are the things you can buy in the cash shop.
Oh.
So that to me is like, we are gonna squeeze this thing for whatever the dumb 10 people who actually knew this came out and bought it. We're gonna try to get them to buy this cosmetic.
Sweet, we'll make $5
Yeah.
in microtransactions. Like,
But that's how they kind of like, for everybody else who just goes through that Uplay launch, they're like, I didn't know this game came out, and the only thing they're talking about is a cash shop. You know, it's a really weird. Like,
I'm getting shades of that Real Money Auction House
from Diablo.
3. Yeah.
It's just surprising to me. I mean, like, God, Ubisoft is going to be such a weird company to dissect how they failed when you've got so many good properties and so many, like, you know, game-changing things that you came up with, and then it's like you ran yourself out by doing the same thing too many times. Maybe I don't even know. I don't even know what people don't like about Ubisoft sometimes. You know, you made too good of an Assassin's Creed. It's too good and too long, maybe. But
I mean, life can be a problem. Like, I don't want to be sitting. I want to roll credits at some point. I don't want to be sitting there for like
sure.
800 hours.
But yeah, I mean, like, I enjoyed all 4 million hours I played of Valhalla, which is weird, right? Because it's like, you know, it's what's that old joke? It's like, such, you know, the soup's bad in such big portions. That's what I feel like a lot of people are like with Ubisoft games. It's like, oh, I love what I
Small portions,
yeah, but
but
just flip it. Like, it's like, oh, it's good, but such big portions. Like, usually, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I really think, I thought people would have liked Far Cry 6 more. I mean, Giancarlo Esposito, and I thought people would have liked Valhalla more, but it's not even the best Viking game that came out in the past 2 years. It's really weird.
I think there's just at a certain point there's just like genre fatigue,
Yeah.
right? Like if you play one of these every other year, you kind of get the gist of what's going on. Even if they do add these cool new things every time. And like Ubisoft has had development, like some very high profile development troubles. Like Beyond Good and Evil still, who knows where Beyond Good and Evil 2 is. Skulls and Bones still not out.
Like Skull and Bones, I think the biggest news about that was it came out and people didn't even want to play the open beta. They had trouble getting people to sign up to stress test and play the open beta. That's fucking crazy.
That's bad.
But, you know, it goes hand in hand with, you know, also they've been really shitty. You know, they've got lots of problems as a studio, and, you know, everyone does, sure, but I think theirs was maybe a little more than some people were willing to take, and they did a little bit more in terms of hiding it that I think left people feeling this is a little more scummy than your average studio right now.
Where I think that has an effect, and I do think it should have more an effect on consumers than it does have. But again, I'm part of the problem. I just talked about, you know, playing Mario Rabbids. But what it does have an effect on is workers, like, if they don't like the working conditions there, they will go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because if you've got talent and you've got a portfolio, you are going to look for jobs at other studios where the culture is a little more in line with what you're looking for. It's more inclusive.
Yeah, it's a very concrete example of, like, you know, diversity is our strength. It's something that they tell us every training, right? And like, it's true though when you look at a lot of these studios that drive everybody out, and it's like, yeah, they don't have the people who are going to do anything cool anymore because they've just hired everybody who agrees with them and likes them and says yes to them. That's what happens when you just basically force everybody else out, right? So
yeah, and then when you add on top of that discrimination, if you add harassment and mistreatment, a lot of good people are not going to stay there for very long, and that might be the root of some of their problems. That at a lot of the studios, they have a negative culture, which is pushing good people out, which is causing um, games to end up in dev hell when you get that when you like push that expertise out. Because the problem with or I shouldn't say the problem, one of the things about human resources is that when people leave, they take institutional knowledge with them, and it's really hard to rebuild that.
I don't know. I don't. Oh my god. I don't know. But I guess we'll talk about them probably in a little bit more than once. I did want to bring up one thing about Octopath Traveler. Did anybody else play Octopath? Okay.
That seems like an Andy game. Is that an Andy game?
It's okay. The thing about Octopath that I thought was its big problem was they tout this whole big huge cast of 8 characters, right? Mm-hmm. But as you play through the game, none of their stories matter to each other.
You never really get the band together. It kind of feels like you're playing the Avengers, but you never assemble, right?
Right. It's like if the Avengers were there, and here's Iron Man's story, and Thor and Captain America are there, but they have literally nothing to do with the story. They're just standing there.
Yeah, that's exactly. As they others talk about it. Yeah.
Right. And other characters that aren't the Avengers are talking to Iron Man, and you're like, shut the people fuck up. I want to hear Thor talk to Iron Man. So that's Octopath Traveler. It's okay. It's just really long, and I bounced off it. So
see, I loved Bravely Default, and I don't know. I don't know why it seems like they gave up on that a little early to me, and they're sticking with. Are there any more Bravely Defaults that they've announced?
I mean, they made Bravely Second. They made Bravely Default 2. I don't know if you played those or enjoyed those. But I will say, what I've read in the reviews of Octopath Traveler 2 is that they've addressed that criticism head on.
That makes me feel a lot better.
So now the stories do actually intertwine.
I was going to say that was one of the gigantic strengths of Bravely, the series, was it was like you build a team and then you play with that team forever, and you play with that team over and over and over again into 10 million boss fights. But it like you kind of are like, man, like you develop a feeling of like an actual team rather than being like, this is just a guy I found in the forest who wants somebody to help him kill his dad or something.
If I could take the opportunity to put in a good word for Live Alive, which is a classic Squaresoft JRPG that was just recently remade in the HD 2D style like Octopath Traveler. I just finished playing the remake last Saturday, and you could almost call it Heptapath Traveler because the opening gimmick is here's 7 different characters, but they're not just all on their own little journey. They're all from 7 different time periods throughout the world.
That's cool.
And they all have their own little mini RPG. And then without saying too much, I'll just say that after starting very atomized, 7 completely unrelated stories, when you've beaten them all, then the game begins to converge on a plot that brings it all together. It's really cool, and
that's really neat.
Yeah, I still have a couple more characters to beat their stories before the big climax. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I love that game. I loved Live Alive a lot. I
love the original. Just playing it on an emulator with a translation patch years ago. Never finished it. Made it to the. I don't know why I never finished it. Now that I finished it, I know that it was very, very close to the end. But to go back, the remake is very reverent. Like they took their time to get things right, to the degree that even some of my Twitch audience was explaining to me things I would never have got, where the voice actors that they picked for the Japanese voices, there are ways in which if you know their other famous roles, you see and you understand which Japanese creator was the one who they hired to come up with this particular character.
That's really cool.
And if you know all that, then you're like, oh, they chose this actor in order to underscore this. It's it's just really, really, really well done as a remake, and the original game is also very cool.
I didn't know it had voice acting.
Yeah, American
Interesting.
and Japanese.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good
Cool.
voice acting too.
I might have to check this out. I mean, I've been interested in it. I just have not had time to.
We're almost bump my foot down.
I am never gonna play a Final. Wait, no. I have played several Final Fantasy games because I have played the Kingdom Hearts series.
Oh, that hurts.
I love trolling people in that. Like, yeah, I've messed around with Cloud and Squall. I've met them before. I know who Tifa is. I love telling people that. Kingdom
I
Hearts
just
is
want to
a Final
apologize
Fantasy
to our
game.
viewers at home. I understand if you have just turned off podcast. I just assume I'm talking.
Scare off the
Nobody from
remaining
here
3
on out.
listeners.
Oh, hold on. I'll alienate anybody left by saying that, Merv, you've never met
Don't say
any.
nothing about the Estonians, please.
You haven't met any of the important Final Fantasy characters, like Edgar and Terra and Silence. The Kingdom Hearts only have the later ones.
The terrible ones.
Yeah. No, they're not terrible. They're just not.
Who's
Not terrible.
Like Cloud and Sephiroth and like basically.
They have Cloud, they have Sephiroth. Yuffie's there too.
Yeah.
Yuffie seems cool.
They have the PlayStation ones, but they're really.
Okay, so none of the. There's no Locke, Edgar, or Terra, or any of those.
Exactly. I'm really just standing up for Final Fantasy VI here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have it.
Yo, they got to patch in Prompto to one of these games.
Yeah.
Like, put Prompto in Kingdom Hearts 4. I want to play as Prompto. I was promised that I could play as
that
Prompto.
was a marketing
in
campaign,
something.
actually.
Yeah.
Play as Prompto.
When do I get to play as Prompto?
Clamoring for that?
I just want to point out.
Streets marketing, marching.
Sorry, I do.
I just wanted to point out. I was looking at the agenda now. This section was supposed to take us 20 minutes.
Yes,
Oops.
I was going to bring this up at the next segment transition, but I cannot.
Fine. Let's
cannot
talk
do
about
that.
franchises.
It's almost 1 a.m. here, and 7 a.m. is coming at me like a train.
All right.
God.
Well, let's talk about franchises because we kind of already started that anyway.
All right, folks. We are going to talk about, as we discussed in the intro, some franchises that we would like to see new installments from. And not only do we want to see new installments, we have ideas about what these new installments should look like for maximum satisfaction. I was going to say maximum commercial success,
No,
but none of us know what actually
These
sells.
are terrible ideas. Like, these are probably franchise ruining ideas, if I'm being honest, but I don't care. This is what I want to see.
It reminds me of what we were talking about earlier with like the Tsundere dialogue. Like, oh, you don't have to take my ideas. Oh, my ideas are so
Unless
bad.
it's good.
Don't take them. Unfortunately, LittleMac will not be able to join us for this segment. He had to go back to his home lobster. Sorry?
Punch people.
He had to go punch people with his
Yeah,
sword.
Doc called for him. He needs to go for his nightly run.
Yeah, the bike. All right.
Like, you're out here making punch
Yeah,
out
yeah.
jokes, and I'm out here making like maritime jokes. That's okay. I for once there's like Canadian American parody on the podcast, and now I'm outnumbered again. I'm gonna get bullied so hard.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Say, boy.
USA motherfuckers. Yeah. I was one of you for a brief
Honor.
period of
What's
time.
an American
but-
always American?
Yeah. I was never a citizen, but I had a whole
Don't
bunch
tell
of
him that.
visas. Yeah, as if you'd let a student be a citizen. But all that aside, there is a franchise that I think needs to come back. It's been dormant for a while. They did a re-release of one of the games, but otherwise the last game in this franchise appeared on the Wii U. And that was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Donkey Kong needs a new game.
I don't know how it is not ever even discussed at all these Nintendo things. Like, you know, like there'll be like the avocado thread and people like, I don't think there's a game, one Nintendo game I spent more time playing than Donkey Kong Country. I'm just being honest. Like the sheer amount of time I got every golden statue, I spelled Donkey Kong every way you could. I played that game so much, and it is like, it's insane to me that is never brought up as like, hey, what, you think they're gonna make another one of these? Because what is it that you think made it a success, if you had to guess?
Donkey Kong Country or Tropical Freeze?
Country.
Having not played very much of it, I think what people really glommed onto was it was gorgeous. Yeah. Like what they managed to achieve on the SNES with those graphics, like graphically it still kind of holds up today. Like I showed the game to my sister, who doesn't play a lot of video games, and she thought it was like a late 90s game. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this thing came out in like the first Donkey Kong Country came out in what, 93?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what year it came out.
It was a I don't know if it was a launch out, but it was very early in that lifespan.
Yeah,
so
I was still like in middle school when that came out.
That
94.
It's got that collectible, that collected all feel mixed in with enough of a story, and then just these very, like these stages that you can't wait to see what's next, right? Is it one of those little crazy barrel ones? Is it a mine cart? You know, and then it always feels like there's a secret around every corner, and that felt so good in the days before the internet and stuff, where it would be like you go in the barrel the wrong way and shoot straight down and you end up in a land full of golden whatevers, you know?
And they definitely preserve that spirit both in Returns and in Tropical Freeze. So, like, part of me wants that 2D platforming experience, but that is not what I'm going to suggest for the next entry in the Donkey Kong franchise. What I am going to suggest is a team up. So, Cranky Kong was a mean old man. He was also a mean young man when he kidnapped Pauline. But Pauline went on to great success, while Cranky Kong became a bitter old man. Pauline became the mayor of New Donk City.
Okay.
And Cranky Kong's grandson became the new Donkey Kong. Now, Pauline remembers she didn't like being kidnapped. But New Donk City and is it Coconut Island where Donkey Kong lives? I forget what it's called. The island where Donkey Kong lives and New Donk City are both under threat from King Krauser,
K. Rule,
Bao Rule. I don't know.
Krauser.
Someone.
I love it.
Someone's evil.
K. Rule
Some evil
Fantasies
dude.
again from Company of Heroes.
Yeah. Bao Rule sounds a lot like Bowels. So it's under threat. They got to team up. Pauline's a little skeptical because she did not like being kidnapped, but I think they could team up for like a good 3D platformer, but it wouldn't be Rare style collectathon. It would be more like taking the spirit of the 2D platformers of Donkey Kong, like almost Crash Bandicoot style 3D.
Okay.
That's what I'm
Controlling
envisioning.
the camera and everything.
And yeah, so you do control the camera, but the levels are linear.
Okay.
So not like these big explorathons like they had for DK64. And I happen to like DK64. I know I'm weird, but that's not what I want here. I want that same 2D, that same spirit of the Donkey Kong Country games, but just translated to 3D. and the character switching instead of between Donkey and Diddy and Dixie is now going to be between Donkey and Pauline. We're going to have these vastly different movesets. And I think you could also do like a co-op version of this where one of you plays as Pauline, one of you plays as Donkey Kong.
Okay. I thought you were going to go like an RTS. I thought we were going to like have to like pick one of the 3 factions and fight for ruling of Donk City.
That would be great. Like, you got the monkey faction, you got the new dog faction, you got the Mushroom
like
Kingdom
Toadstool,
faction.
Spearman, and
Yeah.
I mean,
I totally want this now. I'd be like Empire of Sin, but with Donkey Kong.
I
Sorry,
just
go
love
ahead.
anything with Donkey Kong. He's my like secret success of all of Nintendo. It's just I don't know why there's never a clamor for more Donkey Kong. I don't get it. I always feel like, is it because Donkey Kong was so tied to Rare, you think?
I mean, Retro did great work with it, but everyone knows that Retro's busy with Metroid Prime 4. And can another studio...
Absolutely not busy.
It's happening. So,
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah, they're doing Metroid Prime 4. So I guess people want it, but they also don't want another studio. They don't think another studio can do the same kind of work that Retro did.
I could see that.
Maybe that's it, but I mean, like, no disrespect to Retro, who did do a great job with Tropical Freeze, but other studios, I think, are capable of making a game.
Yeah,
of that
I think so too. And I would love if they started to tie Donkey Kong more into the larger Nintendo universe. I don't think he needs to exist on an island. He has been there since the beginning. You know.
Are you talking about the literal island or
No,
metaphorical island or both?
Get him off,
Okay.
What is it, Coconut Island? Get him to Donk City.
Is it Coconut Island? What is this island called? Okay, I gotta look up. What is the DK Island called? Donkey Kong Island.
Tonga Island or something like that?
No, it's just called Donkey Kong Island.
What
so
would
it's
they
called...
name after him? He's the hero. But yeah, you know, there's no reason that
That's so dumb.
he doesn't need to be. You know what's weird is I kind of think like maybe he's kind of taking on this like aura of a bad guy because I don't know why, but I always get the feeling that that's what they do with him in Mario Kart, which is really like the only thing he even shows up in anymore.
Yeah.
He kind of just looks like a jerk. Like he's a big jerk for some reason. Like
Well, even in the new Mario movie, it looks like he's going to be some kind of an antagonist in that.
But he's not. He's reformed. He just wants to be left alone on his
He's
island.
not his grandfather.
Yeah, exactly.
He learned from his
That's
sins.
why this new
He's
game-
not the one
that's
who
why this new
kidnapped
game we're talking about
princesses.
will work.
Yeah,
He's a good
maybe
guy.
the new game
Exactly.
is like a whatchamacallit, Life is Strange type thing where Donkey Kong's just like, I am not cranky. Stop cheating me like cranky.
I think it's going to be about Pauline learning to trust Donkey Kong because she still has those negative associations. Like, this guy is a spitting image of his grandfather as a young man, right? So Pauline's going to be all like, I remember someone who looked exactly like you kidnapped me. And Donkey Kong's going to be like, but I am not my grandfather. I am valiant and I will cooperate with you. And Pauline's going to be like, but no, I cannot cooperate with you. You know,
This is what we're talking about.
yeah, message of hope and cooperation. And in the end, it's all about defeating those lizard turtles.
The bad guys. I think we can all say that, right? Like, lizard turtle, gross.
I only like things that are human or look like humans.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here.
Yeah, only simians in this house. Frickin' lizards. Go to hell. Kappa,
Alright.
what franchise do you want to
So,
not improve, but like put a new entry in?
so this one is something that I feel like as soon as I say it, it's always been rumored to be there. It just never showed up. But I want my fucking StarCraft MMO. I don't know why it doesn't exist. I'm tired of the excuses. I don't care that Activision is a hellhole. I don't know how this hasn't happened. Just being honest with you, but I love MMOs, right? And start to finish, there's never really been like the type of space MMO that is based on a story that I feel like. I mean, KOTOR, I think, but that's Star Wars. That's its own thing, right? But
You mean just Tor, like the Old Republic?
Yeah.
KOTOR or
sorry,
single
not
player?
KOTOR, Tor. Yeah, the Old Republic. But I don't know why it's been such a. There's been sci-fi MMOs. They've tried it. Most have kind of failed. I don't think very many stuck around even long for the genre even. Yeah, I think it was a Matrix Online at some point even. So I mean, there's been names tied. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is a Star Trek one, and there's Honkai Star Rail later this year, but I don't think that's going to be the kind of smash success Genshin was.
But the thing is, I want an MMO that treats space as fucking scary, right? It's not a setting. Like you go in space, shit can happen. And I like the idea of instead of like going zone to zone like you would in WoW, I want to travel the universe. I want to go to Tarsonis and some of these other places and fight Zerg and deal with Primal Zerg. And there's so much good story in StarCraft that just sits there because they don't know how to introduce anything other than an RTS map. And I think that's a credit to the game in a weird way because RTSs having good, strong stories is good. But I just don't know why an MMO just never seemed to be something that worked out for StarCraft, especially in-house with Blizzard, where, it seems like WoW has been printing money for 20 years now, and and it's I don't know why we've never even gotten like a serious, look at a StarCraft MMO. Now, there's been rumors of them trying to make other MMOs, and I think that ended up being Titan, which ended up being Overwatch. So I don't think that had any real ties to StarCraft, if I'm being honest, But I like the characters of Raynor. I like the universe of StarCraft, where the Terrans are kind of like backwoods hillbillies, but or like Roman Republic era villains, and that's it. That's all you get. You don't really have like any other threads of humanity other than those two. I don't know why, but that cracks me the fuck up in a space game. And I really just wish that, games that spend a long time and develop cool lore, I wish they'd give it a chance to do something in other genres other than just sit there and just like, I've said for a long time, I think where WoW has its problems is that it doesn't have a Warcraft 4 to basically push the reset button after 20 years of WoW has just absolutely decimated that story, right? Where StarCraft has the opposite problem. It's only been the RTS games, and they've never really bothered to expand on anything else past there. And when you've got a cool universe and you know what you're doing, and you could basically just get the guys from across the cubicle to do it for you. I don't know. I don't know how it's I feel like it was talked about for a while, and then it's been 15 years since I've ever even heard anybody say StarCraft MMO. But I want a damn StarCraft MMO.
So how would the combat work in that for you?
Yeah,
like, would it be?
Yeah,
there's WoW style, or would it be more RTS focused?
I probably would go with like almost like an RTS style where you're building and managing resources for combat, if that makes sense. Like a lot of MMOs will do this thing where like you build up combo points or you build up things like that, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would I would lean on the strong parts of where it's like, hey, if you do this, you can basically it affords you this ability or things like that, but you're building up the resources, you're building up the combos. Combo style MMO play is, I think, probably the strongest. The problem is a lot of times it's stuck behind shitty MMOs that are just grind fest, like Black Desert Online, or a lot of those like Aeon, some of like the more Korean MMOs where they have a combo and an attack system, but the game itself is just generic grind how long you can type game. So I would take that. Go ahead.
So have you played Final Fantasy 14? Yeah. So I mean, I like the way combat goes there. It's almost like a dance where like you have to. I play with a controller, so it's like my fingers are constantly moving like L1X, R2, A, and then I'm just like having to keep my combo going to get the most damage, and it's like a rhythm with my hands.
And I think that works very good for stuff like Zerg that are probably going to be, they're going to be like melee attackers, or going to be, stuff like that. And then you're going to have the different factions that are going to act in different ways, right? The Terrans are kind of they're going to be your straight range DPS type with guns and stuff.
Yeah.
Your Zergs are going to be your frontline melee guys, and then I think Protoss, I think you can do kind of a mix with it, but I think where they would be that hybrid. They can stance swap, like in Final Fantasy 14, right? So 1 second they're one, but they're jack of all trades. But you've got so many characters and heroes and worlds and lands, and it's all just sitting there. Will we ever get StarCraft 3? I don't know, but it seems like whenever you talk about StarCraft, it's like, well, the esports scene in Korea and blah blah blah. I'm like, nah, it doesn't. You don't have to tie it to that. The whole game isn't based around an esports scene in Korea anymore. You know, you can do more with it, but I don't know. That's maybe like if Microsoft has a little bit more vision of something they can do with StarCraft that Blizzard is just sitting on, because it's gonna be hard to make, I guess. But I've always wanted it.
Yeah.
I've never. It feels like it dropped off everybody's radar, but I would love a StarCraft MMO.
When you were describing like building up combos with resources, or like even characters with resources, my mind went to like Command and Conquer Renegade.
Yeah, you could do it like that too, right? Like you develop enough, you get enough Vespene farmed up in an area, and you pop down a Firebat suit, and now your combat moves reflect that you're a Firebat instead of a Marine or whatever. You could do that, right? And then you're not stuck. Yeah. You're not stuck to the classic MMO class that I think every MMO right now is trying to get away from. Classes feel very old in a lot of ways. Like even in FF14, what is your class, right? It's what weapon you use, right? So if I farm up enough weapon in an area, then I want to be a Firebat, sure. It should let me, you know? And maybe it has like some kind of upkeep where if I, the longer I'm a Firebat, it's draining my Vespene, because shooting that flame takes a lot of Vespene, and eventually I'm not a Firebat anymore. I'm back to a Marine. I've got to farm up, being a Firebat, or maybe I become a Ghost or a Marauder. There's so many options with what you can do, and then
it's almost like a temporary job system.
Yeah, and then the job system would base your combat, and if you're going to go do, hard content or a raid, hey, go put in the work beforehand. I want you to show up, and I want you to be a Marauder for the whole raid or whatever. And sure, it's stuff like that where hardcore people would do that work for it, because they do it already in WoW. They don't realize it, but they do, So, I don't know. Final Fantasy 14, I think, would be a good basis for combat, though, for sure.
All right. Andy, what franchise do you want to pop a new entry into?
Oh, man. Okay, so I think the last new game in this franchise came out almost 20 years ago.
On the GameCube,
On the
right?
GameCube, yeah. This is F-Zero. I want a new F-Zero game. And I don't want to get too crazy with it. Like, I'm not going to turn it into a 3D platformer or whatever where Captain Falcon is, saving the galaxy, which would be kind of cool.
Subtle dig on Star Fox right there, right?
Yeah, Star Fox Dinosaur Adventures, but with Captain Falcon instead. No, what I want to do, I still want to keep it in the racing realm, but I want it. Okay, so when I first thought about this, I was like, I want Gran Turismo F-Zero, where you like take an old, janky ass, rocket sled, and you build it up, and you gain all these licenses and go to these different cups and race around, and to get the better cars, right? But I was like, what if there was like a story mode? Okay, what if you find the old Captain Falcon's old, racer, and but he still is there, and he's older now, and he's gruff, and he's helping you, the new younger racer, kind of get better, and he's helping you bankroll your way into the F-Zero Grand Prix. But in the story mode, you got to race other drivers. You race them for parts. You race them for pink slips. It's like, well, what if I want F-Zero Midnight Club instead?
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't know if you played Midnight Club on the PS2. That's kind of what it was. It was Grand Theft Auto, but you're just in a car racing people in different places. So, I'm saying you need to stay confined to your rocket sled, in the story mode. But that's what this is, right? It's car culture, but with F-Zero racers. And
I love that. With kind of like that.
Hey, like swapping out parts as
kind of like
exactly.
that cyberpunk aesthetic where like you're like popping through, and it's like I'm modding my synchron drive with that would be cool.
Yeah, taking your rocket ship to a repro dock.
These things need to run on Spider Legs. I can't explain why.
And like you said, get crazy with it. If you want to put Spider Legs on there, like they should have that.
Yeah, you can race on an ice planet and it makes sense or something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, depending on the temperature of the planet outside, like if you're on an ice planet, maybe you want to have something that keeps your car a little more insulated, and maybe you add in a little bit more like rocket power on the back, and it can like maybe melt some of the ice to help you move faster through these tracks. I think it'd be really cool to just really get real gearheady with your different rocket sleds.
I agree.
And yeah,
I
take them
think
to
that
different
would
places.
be.
I'm down for this.
And opposite of Donkey Kong, I feel like F-Zero is a game that every director people are like, hopefully this is the, you know what I mean? And it never seems to be though, right?
Yeah, I don't know what their version is to it. I think I read something a few years ago. They had asked some Western companies to kind of give them ideas for an F-Zero. Like, for whatever reason, Japan, they don't want to make this racing game, but maybe Westerners will. And I guess they got a few, and they were like, we'll pass. And then somebody put out one, I think it was almost even a Switch launch title. There's like a racing game that was almost F-Zero like that came out on the Switch. It was a digital only game. I don't know if that was the one specifically, the company that showed it to Nintendo.
Wouldn't have been a launch title, but might have been close to it.
Yeah. But there's there were talks, and then it never happened.
Yeah, it is a hard franchise to get right, especially because I think Nintendo is afraid of it cannibalizing Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I really enjoy F-Zero for what it was. I really think they could reboot it in some way, and I think you gotta be creative with it. I think you gotta separate what made F-Zero. It's kind of like what made Pilot Wings fun, right? When you almost sit down and write Pilot Wings, what you did in that game, it sounds boring as shit, right? And like F-Zero sounds like every racing game ever, but it didn't feel like that, right? Like when you played it, it felt like it's a whole different world of stuff. You know, you're bumping into each other, you're different tracks, you're floating around. It's never felt like any other racing game, even though on paper that's what it was, right?
Yeah. And just like StarCraft, it's got a lot of lore buried in it. And if you made a whole story mode with the F-Zero lore, like all the gangs that are in there and the corporations that are controlling everything, it's very, cyberpunk inspired.
Yeah, every gang has its own loyalty.
Yeah.
You know, you could do a lot with that.
Yeah, each game got
racing loyalty missions.
Yeah, because you know what racing's all about, right?
It's about the family. All right, Kappa, you had another one you want to add to?
This is just my thing. This would be my dream if basically Payday. I know it's getting a sequel, but this is a reimagining, right? I want Payday to kind of go the Fortnite route, right? But instead of going around and getting different like characters to go heist with, I want it to become like the heist simulator. I would love it if all that Payday was from like here on out was to replay like famous video game, movie, music, video, I don't know, I don't care, heist, right? So like I want a heat heist in Payday. I want it to be like almost like a platform rather than a game, if that makes sense. Where you build,
makes total
sense. It's
Yeah,
kind of like free form, right? So you say, okay, this is what I want this heist to be. I want it to be a sneaky heist where we're stealing the crown jewels in the 1800s, and here's what you can use, here's the mission, here's the weapons, all that kind of stuff, and then the game kind of spits it out for you. So like I don't know how to describe it. Like it's like a template, and then the heist itself is what you basically playing around, but the game is really just a service for heisting. And I kind of got this idea from playing Hitman, right? Hitman has kind of become just like, hey, it doesn't matter, go kill people, right? Like
it's a platform.
Yeah. And then they started like allowing the community to make missions, and it's like, hey, this is the mission, go kill this guy with a banana, whatever, right? And I was thinking, how cool would it be to kind of take that same idea but build it around heist instead of killing people? Because heists are some of the funnest shit ever, and putting together a crew and making sure that your weapons and the stuff that you bring and the way that you do it makes sense. And are you going loud? Are you going quiet? All that shit I think could be so well done, kind of like how Hitman did Assassinations. I would love to see a game approach heist like that, a little bit different, because there's definitely heist in Payday, and when you do them, it's based on movies and stuff like that, but there's no real sense to why you do things or what you do it. It's just basically whatever you've unlocked, that's the thing you bring, and you've got to coordinate with people and stuff like that. But I would rather it just be like so much more freeform than that, where you're the one creating the heist, you're setting the parameters, you're doing it the way you want to do it. I think that would be so fucking cool. I love heist shit. I just always have. And Payday feels like a heist game up to a point where it all goes to shit every single time, right? I think I probably put 50 hours into Payday 2, and I think I've done a fully silent mission like once. And it's because that's how the game is kind of designed. It's not fun to do it right.
Yeah. It's basically Left 4 Dead with bank
right,
robberies.
Yeah. So I would much rather them take that and instead just go all the way in on the heist thing and just say, look, here, this, like, and the Hitman, the newer Hitman, you can say if you get spotted, it's over. You fail. I want that. I want it to be a heist, things like that. But more of Payday delivering on the idea of just, this is a game where you steal shit for fun. I think would be real cool. Make an Indiana Jones mission, make stuff like that, and then make it about avoiding traps instead of getting spotted and having to kill 100 cops. Because you're right, it does turn into Left 4 Dead at some point, and it's always been what's annoyed me about the series, because that's such a simplistic way to handle failing a heist, is to just throw a bunch of cops at the people, right? But it gives it gameplay, so it works, right? But I would love for them to kind of rethink about how that series works and make it basically like a heist platform, and then you're the one specifically designing the challenges and the missions, and then setting the standards for what the missions do, and then really leaning into that idea of what Hitman provided, which is there's other fun ways to play this rather than sneaking around being quiet, and we want the player to play the way they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things that I would add to this. I'm almost imagining creating, like, the developers would obviously put out a set of heists, and then there'd be more via DLC or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I'm imagining something like I'm imagining something almost like Halo Forge.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be a perfect
for like
example.
creating your own heists.
Yeah, you make the stage, or you work one of their pre-designed stages, and you make these are the characters, these are the things, this is your goal, this is where I place this item, this is what happens if you get spotted. I mean, you could really like get all into building that, whereas like when I would play, I don't know, it could have changed a lot because God knows there's been 10 million DLCs in that game, but it was basically, okay, here's a bank, go rob it. Oh, you failed robbing it, here come 5,000 cops, an endless wave of cops until you either die or you shoot your way out. And that is kind of fun, but it's also not really a heist. Does that make sense? And now I'm just playing an FPS.
It's limiting. I think there's scope for that, but I also think you should have some missions where you don't kill 5,000 cops.
That's strong words.
Yeah. Yep.
So that would be my other one. I mean, I like the idea of Payday, but then I load it up and it's just like, okay, I'm going to do everything right, but someone's going to hear the drill, and then I'm just shooting cops for another 20 minutes until we get out with like $10 worth of loot. So.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking you could add to this is not just like heists that reference old movies or other like fictional heists from books or what have you. I'm thinking even just like really random Fortnite-esque crossovers. So think about like, I don't know, a Portal themed heist where you have to go rescue the companion cube or something like that.
You could do historical heists, like you could do Guy Fawkes. How crazy would that be? Like you're actually going to go do. I mean, I think some English people wouldn't like that, but like, hey, can you pull it off? Well, maybe, and you're walking around with gunpowder barrels. Who knows? But I don't know. I mean, there's heists are so much potential from every standpoint, and then they never really materialize in video games. I try to think of like, what do you think is the most successful heist mission or anything in a game? Because even the Grand Theft Auto ones feel pretty tame, right? Like they
are not
fun. Or not. And then like
I mean, I'm saying this as someone who's not a Grand Theft Auto 5 fan, but like
they feel like just a mission. Like you make this pick if you want this guy and you get this money. But yeah, they don't feel fun. They feel very.
I mean, not fun is the wrong. Okay, how do I put this? It's not so much that they're not fun; it's that I don't feel like I'm really doing. It's the same problem as Payday. But with Payday, I know going in that I'm not getting a real heist. Like, I know going in. All right, this is me just going to shoot some security guards. Whereas when like I didn't get far enough in Grand Theft Auto 5 to do more than a couple of heists. I felt like I knew intellectually that something was going to go awry because it was the kind of game it was. And that kind of cut the tension of whether or not I would succeed in pulling off the heist as planned.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, it's not a heist if you're already knowing it's going to go wrong. Then it's just an FPS with a quiet part of a stage, right? Like, it's got a sneaky opener, and then you're just playing a shooter. But I want that heist experience. I don't know why. I mean, it is the heist game, right? Except for, what was that other one that was?
I mean, the subtitle of the first one was literally the heist.
Yeah, lean into that. Make it so it's not a. I mean, I get it that the difficulty is in doing it perfectly and quiet and silently, all that stuff, and that might be fun for the 1% of people who can pull that off. But no, I don't know. I wanted to feel more like a heist game. And I think if you put more into the hands of the community, like Hitman did, Hitman feels like more of an assassin game, honestly, since the community's been able to do a lot of that. So, I don't know. I think that's a really strong, pattern to take over, and just make it the community assassin or the heist game, so the community assassination game.
Community assassination.
everybody pitch in, kill somebody.
Oh yeah, that's the Purge. One franchise that I mean, it's not a franchise yet exactly, or it's a multimedia franchise, but doesn't have more than one game yet. That I think could use some tweaking is Scarlet Nexus. I don't know if any of you played it.
Not played it, but I watched a streamer play it start to finish, and it looks amazing. I'll tell you that.
Oh, it's super sick to like actually play. I mean, the story just kind of goes off the rails at the end.
Yeah.
It gets like, let me put it this way. It starts off anime in a cliche way, then gets anime in a really good way. Like, it just goes completely for broke, and then just drops the ball at the end. Like, it could have been a little better. But I love the bonkers middle portion. Sorry, Andy, you mentioned something about this game?
No, I think I was just saying, huh.
I don't know if you've seen screenshots or anything. It is beautiful. It is like, it does that thing where the anime is in the foreground and then the background is kind of like stylized, realistic almost, but it looks great in like as you're playing it. It doesn't look good in screenshots sometimes, but it looks great on screen.
Yeah, it's got like that mixture of like flat shaded characters and foregrounds and props, but the backgrounds are a little more 3D and a little more textured. So you get this kind of you get this mixture of anime with more traditional 3D graphics, but where a lot of games don't know how to combine those two things properly, the compositing of the shots in Scarlet Nexus makes that seem a lot more deliberate. Especially because the monsters themselves are a little bit less anime than
and they don't cell shade the shit out of everything, I think, which helps a lot too. Like, I don't know if it's cell shade, I don't know the actual term, but when you put that big thick black line over everything to be like, here is the character, they don't do that either.
Yeah, it's like that mixture where they don't go like fully hardcore on the toon shading. It's not like, say, Hi-Fi Rush where everything is toon shaded. Here it's a mixture of that flat shading and that 3D shading, and it actually is one of the few games I've played where it doesn't look aesthetically confused after doing that. So yeah, it looks really great, but it did have the first game did have some issues, like plot wise, which, you know what, make the plot of the second game equally stupid, I don't care. But gameplay wise, the one thing it did that was a little bit strange was it had two separate campaigns that overlapped quite a bit, and to get the entire story you had to play both campaigns, but you didn't unlock anything at the end after completing both campaigns. So it was just like, I played the game once and I played it a second time, which, not the greatest. Feels like I've wasted my time having done that. So what I propose to do for the sequel, keep the dual protagonists, you keep the dual perspectives, but this time you're kind of alternating between them, almost like Yakuza 0. So you're like flipping back and forth between Majima and Kiryu, but if Majima and Kiryu were anime teenagers,
So,
or more accurately, anime 80-year-olds taking hormones to keep them looking like teenagers until the hormones they take make them die, because that is in the lore of this game.
It's tough to pull off the multiple protagonist thing sometimes too, though, right? I mean, games that
Absolutely.
I think about like Grand Theft Auto 5, which we were just talking about. You know, sometimes it can be really tough to do that, but I really like the idea of this because this time you are basically playing the other half of a brain link, right? That's the main idea behind this, right?
Yeah, so the way it works, the idea is that you can brain link with other members of your squad, but it's only until towards the end of the game where you can brain link with the other protagonist, but you're not actually playing as the other protagonist. You're just playing as one half of that brain link. So I think it would be cool to like play these characters separately, and then towards the end, like switch back and forth between the brain link, like in combat.
Okay.
You can be like, "Hey, I'm playing as." The main characters are named Yuito and Kasane. So like, "Hey, I'm playing as Kasane," but with a flip of the switch, I'm now playing as
That
Yuito.
would be awesome, especially if you were going to do kind of like combat, like say like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. You know what I mean? So like you're setting up a combo with one character and then you're activating, you're triggering it with another character. That would be so cool.
Where I think it would be really cool is when you're fighting like gigantic bosses that are so big that they like fill the whole screen. So let's say I'm Yuito and I'm fighting on the ground, and I see that the AI has controlled Kasane to be like up in the middle of the air doing some crazy aerial combo. With a flick of the button, the camera pans over to Kasane, and now I'm controlling her, and now I'm like in the middle of that aerial combo, and then I'm manually completing
That would be, yeah.
And that's probably like impossible to pull off from like a tech perspective.
Well,
but if they can pull it off, it'd be
kind
dope.
of, well, I'm trying to think about how Final Fantasy 15 did it. It wasn't well done. I hated the combat in that game, but I think maybe if you look at maybe something like that, but I like your idea of if you're doing like a Shadow of Colossus style huge boss fight, you know, you got one character working at its legs, one up in the air, getting it in the face, and, you know, another stabbing it around. You're like your swarm of bees attacking some giant. I think that would be really cool.
Exactly. The other big twist that I would add to a potential Scarlet Nexus sequel, we're going to the moon. The moon is a big part of the plot in the first game, because a large part of civilization went to live on the moon. Like, if I remember the lore correctly, and I probably don't, humanity fled Earth and then had to go live on the moon, and then sent parts of humanity back down to Earth, and then moon people and the Earth people got mad at each other and kind of like severed the link, and that's why the sky is all filled with yellow sulfurous clouds, and the moon and the Earth can no longer communicate with each other. We're going to the moon.
I love it. I never don't want a game to take me to the moon. I've never been mad about going to the moon. I'll put it that way. DuckTales started it, and then ever since then, take me to the moon, baby.
And the way this would like play into the gameplay is the moon has different gravity than the Earth. So now you're going to be doing like Devil May Cry combat, but like in not 0G, in like 1/6 G, if you will. And I think that would be really dope.
That sounds cool.
Maybe they can fight the Transformers that are on the moon. Or the Transformers, or no, what's on the moon, Fall?
Oh god, it's like
the Wizard.
I don't know if you guys watched Moonfall, but what a turd that was.
I saw the ending of it.
I don't know what Moonfall is. Wait, what is Moonfall?
It's what's his name? Roland Emmerich, right?
Yeah.
It's
say no more.
So the moon's not a moon. You see, it's a evil alien egg that hatches and then destroys the Earth. It is bonkers.
The moon's like heading towards the Earth, like it's going to collide with it, right?
Yeah. And then they find out that inside of the Earth is a rogue AI, and the moon was created to contain the rogue AI, and it's been basically creating nanomachines, and Well, it really loses the plot there. It's got a cool idea, and then it.
See, you're saying all this, and this is like a third as bonkers as the plot of
Scarlet Nexus,
Scarlet Nexus.
Yeah, it's go up there. Yeah, maybe combine it. Maybe this could be a tie-in. You know, the Moonfall game we always wanted.
Scarlet Nexus, Scarlet Nexus : Moonfall. I would so be down for that. We're going to the moon. We're gonna hatch the moon,
and then we're fucking fighting it. That's in the
attack and dethrone the moon.
That's like on the box art at the bottom. We're going to the moon, and then we're fighting it.
Yeah. Any game where you get to blow up the moon is aces in my books.
Yeah, there's so many good movies that end up with like dumb plots like that, and then they end up being fun. What's the other one where like there's Nazis on the moon or something?
I mean, they're Nazis on the moon.
Yeah,
Wolfenstein.
that's true. I wonder if they stole that.
You do go to the moon, and they're also Nazis on Venus in the sequel. But by Wolfenstein in the sequel, I mean the New Order and New Colossus.
I think I tapped out a New Order. Which the one where you start out with this giant stealth mission?
That's the old
yeah,
blood.
No thanks. You don't put my stealth in Wolfenstein. You screwed up.
Oh yeah, I remember that level.
Yeah. That was raw. That was the first level, right? Or maybe the second. It's right at the very
early
beginning.
In the game. Yeah, it was really boring, and I got very upset because everyone was like, "This game's so great."
And it has it's like a no, like you spot it and you fail, like you just go back. I hate that. Like, why? What part of Wolfenstein made you go, "Oh yeah, stealthing"? Like, it's very weird. So
it's okay. It got worse.
Ruined all these franchises, though. Let's be honest. They just do not do these ideas. But maybe.
Maybe. It's not like I want you to use my ideas.
A StarCraft MMO would probably bankrupt Blizzard. Or maybe. That's going to be the...
I don't know what you're talking about. Scarlet Nexus Moonfall is a gold money printing machine.
You're going to have to...
And they're going to make an anime. They made an anime for the first one. They're going to make an anime for the second one.
When you release it, you put a copy of Moonfall in every single game. It's like, hey, we know you didn't see this movie.
No, screw the video game. We're making a Moonfall anime now. It's going to be directed by like Roland Emmerich. He's going to go to Japan. It's going to be dope.
No, it'll be done by Hideki Anno.
Oh, that would be... And then at the end, they're all going to get, like, suicidally depressed as the moon heads towards Earth. Get in the moon, Shinji! Anyway, I've never seen Evangelion. I've just absorbed it entirely through memes.
You gotta have some kind of, like...
you gotta really...
Space
you gotta
religion.
be in a mindset for it.
You gotta have a space religion to be mad about, you know, like
right.
Like every time, like I've never seen an anime or played a JRPG where they introduce religion and it's like, yeah, they're not so bad. Like every single time, it's just like the space
like
pope
Final
was
Fantasy
behind the evil moon.
I think Tales of Zestiria might be the only JRPG I've played where the religious force is a force for good and stays.
Yeah, it's pretty rare, that's for sure.
The entire time. Yeah, for sure, it is rare. Tales of Styria is not a great game, but I think it's a little bit better than its reputation would suggest. Speaking of, the next Tales of game should not go to the moon.
Okay.
To the exact opposite.
Get off the moon.
Tales of Arise. We are not going to outer space. Tales should never go to outer space. What were you thinking, Bandai Namco? I'm not making this up. Tales of Arise, you go to like a freaking space station. It's like, why are you putting this in my fantasy RPG? Come on.
Wasn't that like very like hard medieval fantasy too at some point? The Tales series?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Zestiria is basically like
Zestiria, that's the one
Japan's idea of European medieval fantasy.
Yeah, it's like knights and shit.
Yeah. Arise gets a little bit away from that.
Okay.
But like Zestiria is like straight up Euro medieval fantasy just with an anime veneer.
Okay, that's the one I played.
Like down to the religious organization being effectively just the Christian church.
There you go.
So
the bad guys.
but weirdly enough, the good guys. I was surprised how they turned out to be the good guys in the game. Like, they don't play that big a role. They're just like, we're around, we're there, we're a force, mostly for good. I don't remember that game very well. All right. With that, we are going to call this podcast to a close. If you would like to keep up to date with the podcast, you can follow us on our website at avocadogamescast.wordpress.com, where we post each episode along with a link dump that fact checks some of what we say. And you can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, or all three if you're nasty. Just search for Avocado Gamescast. We are there. We're also on a whole bunch of podcatcher services because they index the feeds from Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So I guess we're on those things. You can search for us. No guarantees, though. Also, make sure you check out The Avocado, which is the community that spawned this podcast, at the-avocado.org, where you can find Andy's Tuesday New Games Roundup, or LittleMac's 30-minute retro reviews, or Kappa talking about football, which is not a video game, but could be.
Bring your knowledge, though. Kick you out.
Yeah, you got to know how the downs work and how the field goals work. I sort of know football. I've watched some CFL before.
The Grey Cup.
The Grey Cup. The Grey Cup is fantastic because it's just a complete disaster sometimes. Not like it's bad football, but the only Grey Cup that I remember, and I forget what year it was. I think it was 2010. I want to say it was the Saskatchewan Roughriders against the Montreal Alouettes. No, this is hilarious. So I believe it was the score was something like 26-24 for the Roughriders. The Alouettes had just a few seconds left on the clock. And they had to make a field goal so they could get 3 points and get 1 point ahead to win. And there are a few seconds left on the clock. They missed the field goal. Saskatchewan starts celebrating, but the refs don't call them the match. And everyone's like, what the hell's going on? And then they show on the replay, Saskatchewan had 2 minutes left.
Oh, heartbreaker.
No.
So then Montreal gets to move up 10 yards, take the field goal again with literally 0 seconds left on the clock. They make the field goal. They win by 1 point. Saskatchewan is devastated. Montreal goes wild.
They got some good names there, too. Alouettes. I don't know what an alouette is besides the song, but, man, it's a good name.
Alouette is the French word for lark.
Oh, of course. That's a good football name, right? We're always like let's go Chicago Sparrows. What's the other Argonauts?
That'd be, I think, Toronto Argonauts, Ottawa Red Blacks, or in French, Le Rouge et Noir d'Ottawa. You got Hamilton Tiger Cats, BC Lions, Edmonton Elks, Calgary Stampeders.
Look at that.
I think that's the entire league.
Named them all.
Yeah. All great teams. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye, guys.